and this is a Zemeckis-directed adaptation of the Carl Sagan novel. Dr. Ellie Arroway races to interpret a possible message originating from the Vega star system. Once first contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence is proven, Arroway contends with restrictive National Security Advisor, KITS, and religious fanatics bent on containing the implications of such an event. An incredible message is found hidden in the signal, but will Arroway be the one to answer its call? Welcome to another feature presentation of Midnight Double Feature, and on this episode, we'll be covering 1997's Contact, directed by Robert Zemeckis. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Midnight Double Feature. Here we are tonight covering 1997's Contact, not Contract, as you heard in the intro. Guys, just a quick things right off the bat. This podcast is rated E for a reason. You will hear motherfuckers on this episode. We are going to spoil the movie from 1997, so if you haven't seen a 23-year-old movie, I don't know what to tell you. So yeah, just FYI right off the bat. But guys, welcome back to Midnight Double Feature. We're excited to have you guys here. Again, this is Colin. You guys know me. If it's your first time listening, maybe you don't. Hopefully you enjoy this episode. But not Zoheb, not Matt, not Danny. Well, not Matt Villa, but another Matt is joining me. My good friend, Matt Prater. How you doing, buddy?
How's it going, man? Glad to be here.
Hell yeah, dude. Matt, maybe some of you guys know Matt and I are friends. Maybe you don't. We've been friends for a long time. This podcast might be one of the few things creatively I have not collaborated with you on, which is strange. Like short films, movie ideas, bands, like we've done songs, stuff like that. So it's kind of funny. I was like, it's been 3 years. Why have I never had Matt on? We both love Contact. We're both big fans of it. So I'm excited. I'm excited to have you here, man. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. But guys, if you want to check us out on our socials, we're on Facebook at Midnight Double Feature. Same thing for Instagram at Midnight Double Feature. We're on Twitter at MDF Pod. If you're on Facebook, you can also join the after party. Everybody's invited to that. It's where we talk about, new stuff coming up, no spoilers, kind of talk about trailers, shit like that. So, if that's your thing, check it out. You can also shoot us an email, midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com. And if you want to sign up for our Patreon, that's patreon.com/midnightdoublefeature. You can also just find everything, our merch, all that stuff at our website and check it out there. Written reviews, stuff like that, bios on us. So anything that you guys ever need, you want to sign up for the Patreon, it'll take you to it. So just check it out. We hope you guys consider signing up. It's $5 a month. We've been really building that back catalog lately. We've got some good shit going on. So I'm excited. I hope you guys join us there. But if not, you just want to listen to the free shit. Okay, fine, whatever. Just fucking listen to you cheapskate. No, I'm just kidding. This will always be free and we'll always bring you great episodes like Contact. Just kind of starting off like our first impressions, really. Do you want to go with your first thoughts or do you want me to go first? You're the guest. I'll let you pick.
Well, first of all, I'm excited to be here. I've always wanted to be on this podcast, actually, secretly. I was like hoping one day
Hell yeah.
I would be able to do an episode. I'll let you take it off. I'm a little inexperienced with it, so.
Oh, fuck it. You got it. So I remember the days of us jamming in the unit. We all rented a storage unit with a couple other bands. And I remember, I think Chris had that TV built in with the the VHS player in it. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. Many VHS tapes watched on that.
Yes. Very, very many. And I remember us watching the shit out of Contact at the time. And I just remember even contemplating like writing like music that was kind of based on it and stuff like that. Just especially around that time, like 2011, 2012, somewhere around there.
Oh, yeah. That was it.
Yeah, it's a very impactful time. And that was the first time I'd really watched this all the way through. I didn't watch this as a kid, when not something that we had on in the house, but I couldn't tell you the first time I watched it, but it was probably around then. And it just fucking blew my socks off. Obviously, this is my pick. We're both fans of this, though. Zoheb he might enjoy this, but he'd fucking never pick it. But it just blew my socks off, man. I know Matt is very, very well versed in Carl Sagan. Definitely read way more shit about him than I've got. But just the fact that it was like Robert Zemeckis, Jodie Foster, Carl Sagan, and you start looking at the cast and you're like, fucking Rob Lowe, James Woods, Tom Skerritt, like all these badass, like heavy, even William Fichtner, like there's an insane amount of. Even Angela Bassett too. I mean, there's just a crazy just revolving door of A-list actors. And this movie is really interesting. I don't really think there's a lot of movies like this. Maybe like Close Encounters of a Third Kind, like kind of comes close, but not really. It's just that kind of this movie. It's not. It's kind of sci-fi, but not really. I mean, it is, but yes, but no. It's definitely not horror, but I can't think of another movie like Contact. Doesn't mean that it's perfect. There's stuff about it that I don't absolutely enjoy. You know, there's some hokey stuff in here, and we can get into that as we watch it. But I fucking love this movie, and it just leaves me with such just the thought and the gravity of like you being the one to cross space and time and see these people and be the first person ever to do this. And it might be bad, it might be good. Like the weight of just having first contact is like, oh my God, that's so insane. And you know, just I personally do believe there's probably some kind of life. I'm not saying there's aliens. I'm just saying that there's probably something. I mean, go so far, you know, that's my personal thing. That's not for everybody, but I think the probability is high, at least. So this was really interesting to me. And I just loved the fact that it's kind of bittersweet, too, because like I think Carl Sagan didn't get to see it. I think he died before this came out.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. He died, I think, in 96, maybe, or a little bit earlier.
That sounds right.
Right. But yeah, I mean, he wrote the novel. And so I'm a huge fan of this movie, a huge fan of Carl Sagan. And, you know, I think Carl Sagan was really ahead of his time with this novel. You know, and he was like a big science educator. So I think a lot of what he was trying to do here is just to kind of educate the public in an entertaining way. But one thing about Carl Sagan, he was pretty critical over the film industry, actually. There's a few interviews of him talking about or criticizing the film industry for spending too much money on films, actually. I've seen him, I don't remember the exact quote, but also he was on Johnny Carson. And he was talking about Star Wars, and he was talking about like, I don't know, sort of the political correctness of Star Wars and how he wanted to see more diversity. You know, things that you might hear in today's culture. So he was definitely ahead of his time. And I also think it was a really good choice that he put a strong, you know, female lead in the role, right? Because that, you know, this book or novel was written, I want to say in the mid 70s, somewhere around there is when he started writing it. He actually based Jodie Foster's character off of a lady he knew in real life. She was a scientist at SETI. And so he based that character off of her. Yeah.
That's fucking cool. I did not know that, dude.
Yeah.
See. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, I'm just looking shit up. Yeah, go for it.
I don't remember the name or anything. I just was doing some research and found that, and I thought it was really neat. But I think one of my favorite things about this movie, and I actually saw this movie in the theater, and
nice.
So yeah, it was really cool because, you know, there was something about, I don't know if you remember Regal Cinemas in Hendersonville, Tennessee.
Oh, hell yeah.
Before like they put it in the streets of Indian Lake. So we're talking like actually projection, no like DLP, digital projection, right? Like no stadium seating. There was something about that experience of like the hardware, say, that just, man, there's nothing like that. So I got to experience.
I went to my first date in that theater, actually.
Oh, wow.
When I was like 13. Yeah, that's so
awesome.
funny. I love that place. Now it's like a church. It's like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying though?
Yeah, no, and the fact that Robert Zemeckis directed this was just phenomenal, you know, because like he did Back to the Future, he did Forrest Gump, What Lies Beneath, Castaway. I mean, he has that like huge epic directorial style, you know, and so I thought it was really great that, you know, he directed it. I got to experience this movie, you know, in the theater on like the original film hardware, you know, and I think the movie starts off really strong with the opening sequence of like, you know, you're on Earth, or you see Earth and it backs away and you see the planets. We get out of the solar system, we get out of the galaxy. We start seeing, you know, billions of galaxies, and then it sort of cuts in, well, it doesn't cut, but it like fades into her iris. And I really think that scene kind of just sums up the whole message of what this movie is about, because, you know, like you said, I'm pretty familiar with Carl Sagan and like, you know, what he stood for and everything. And
right.
You know, that pale blue dot speech, you know, he was all about opening people's minds up to how sort of small and insignificant we are in comparison to the size of the universe. So I think the way that this movie starts is really, really cool. I guess if you wanted to pick it apart, like the Earth and the moon are not in proportion. Like actually,
yeah.
If you want to get like, I saw Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about some of the things like that. But other than that, I think it's a really epic intro because, in the 90s when this film came out, I don't think that there was any kind of shot that gave you that perspective, in 1997 that I had seen at least. Now there's like the television series Cosmos and all kinds of documentaries like how the universe works and all that definitely give you that perspective of like the opening shot. But that's one of my favorite things about the movie is just the opening sequence. I really like that.
Yeah, dude, it's funny you were saying there's definitely nothing, there's nothing in the 90s I can think that really came, but there's also the two that, as you were talking, that kind of struck me were 2001: A Space Odyssey. Is not a film that's like this, but visually very like that opening scene reminded me a little bit of 2001 just because it's outside in space, like literally no other reason. But then also Arrival. The 2016 Arrival. Did you ever see Arrival?
Yeah, I saw most of it. I think something happened. I couldn't finish it, but that was a really good movie. I really liked how they put the focus on language. Because I've never seen a science fiction movie dealing with aliens solely kind of like, it seemed like Arrival was really built on the whole language, like it was like a presentation of how you communicate too. It's like very educational in a way.
Right. Yeah. That's one thing I thought was just how the fuck, how do you communicate with someone that can't, it's kind of crazy. Just the thinking of like, is it like a system of taps or like beeps and clicks? Like, what are we going to do? So yeah, dude, that's awesome. I'm envious of that, getting to see it at Regal and that, because that theater was fucking awesome too.
Yeah.
It was really simple, had a bunch of cool games in the lobby. I love that place. But I don't remember. I probably saw this first time at the storage unit, like jamming, and just was blown away by it. I did get the audiobook. I listened to a little bit of it, but I think that's one of those books I can't really like listen to. I need to read it. And certain books like that, I'm not very good at listening to. I need something that's got a visual along with it. So, I like I said, this movie's not perfect. If I do have to give it some criticism, it is long. It's 2.5 hours long. It is a bit of a lengthy, which is okay. I like long movies, but just, I think this would have been an awesome miniseries. I think this would have killed in like the early 90s on like a, AMC or like ABC or something like that, like some crazy, like they did with It, like I think that would be awesome. But I still, I can't, it's one of those things. It's like, I love it so much, but I can't look past the flaws. Her dad being the alien at the end, I was like, oh, fuck you. I was like, come on. Like, I enjoy it now more than I did the first time. I was like, I get it, I guess, I was like, but I still, it is kind of like the first time I saw that, I was just like, I don't know about that. That kind of ruins it a little bit for me. It's better now with age, but I still, at the time, I fucking was just like, oh, okay, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it has kind of a timeless nature. The fact that the way the aliens communicate with her is they're just making it easy on her, like here's like, we're making this sort of like a dream sequence. We know you love your dad. How they know that, I'm not sure. That may play into the Haddon, kind of monitoring her throughout her whole life. It seemed like S.R. Haddon was, sort of keeping tabs on her like throughout her life, which could suggest that, maybe this was all sort of his, like, I don't know, how do you say
scheme?
Scheme, right. But I think, with Arrival, you see these sort of like tentacle type alien beings, which, you may, if you want to get critical, could be a little bit like, you see it. Sometimes it's what you don't see that really sells it. So it may be that in a sense of being timeless, making this movie or story last longer, the fact that the Vegans kind of see her and the human race maybe not being quite ready to have interaction with a higher being, or like, a higher intelligence thing. So, they're just making it easier on us. So we're here, I think there's a statement made, how we get through like this loneliness feeling, this empty space, is through knowing that we're all here together. Right. And when we're ready, in other words, when the human species is ready, we'll take the next step. So I guess it works in that sense. But it is a lot of it is disappointing, and I think a lot of people were kind of disappointed with that ending because everything is set up, and it just we're like on a beach, and like now like no one believes her, and it's kind of it falls to the whole like faith kind of, you have to have faith in what she's saying, sort of like it kind of goes back to the religious argument there. That's and so I don't know. I think it could have been done a little better. I'm not sure what I would suggest doing with the ending, but I do like how they kind of kept it a little vague because with like, for example, going back to Arrival, you see the tentacles. It's a little weird, like
it's a little jarring, but when they're in the smoke and shit and you can't quite make them out, it's like, okay, right. Like that fucking, I like that. But yeah, I love this movie so much that I can't even really it's hard for me to nitpick it. There's just really kind of goofy stuff. The scientists are all these like, oh, I'm real quirky and I have sandals and I, wear Hawaiian shirts and, just kind of goofy 90s tropes and stuff like that. But I think that for the most part, I can look past that because the movie as a whole is a lot more interesting than that. And it's just, it's hard for me, it's almost perfect to me. It's almost a perfect film, but there's little things and then that ending that kind of stuck it for me. But that's kind of my opening thoughts. Do you want to jump into this bitch and start her from the top?
Yeah, let's go.
Hell yeah, dude. Well, like you were saying, we get this great shot of just ripping through space and all the different eras of music. And I was like, this is fucking cool, and it actually, I'm pretty sure the last thing you hear is Hitler talking. And I was like, oh fuck. It's like that such a great detail, just trying to show like as the decades go by. Well, actually,
I think what they were kind of showing there is that was the first broadcast that was broadcasted into space. And so the idea is that signal, that TV radio signal, would be the first thing that another intelligent species would get from us. Like they would receive that signal. And so like as you back away, you hear like something about like, I think you hear a Spice Girls song, right? Like we're in the late 90s, we're backing away, we hear older broadcasts, and then you hear nothing, which is really cool. You start seeing like, I think there's like the nebula Pillars of Creation in there somewhere. And, the audio goes away and it's just like, I think it's such a good setup to kind of just humble you and give you this perspective of like how vast the universe is. That's
a fucking great way of putting that. Like it's very humbling, and it definitely kind of knocks you down a peg. Just feeling, and I don't feel lonely looking at that. I'm like, oh my God, I am nothing but an ant. It's like, you don't think anything like that, but you kind of are. There's like kind of relief in that. But there's something too I like about showing it so far out there that it's like it's coming, like here it comes, like this the first thing, like they just kind of stick the tip in of it just a little bit at the beginning, and I fucking dig that. But I love Jenna Malone as Ellie Irway. Like why did I say it like that? Ellie Irway? Like I don't know why the fuck I said that like that, but Ellie Irway as this little girl Jenna Malone, dude, she ended up being in like Donnie Darko and like Sucker Punch. Have you ever seen her in anything else?
Donnie Darko, I can't remember right off the bat. Let's see.
I know she's in Batman versus Superman. She has like a small part in Batman versus Superman or something, but she's been in a bunch of stuff, and I'm not super familiar with her, but I always love seeing Jenna Malone, especially here. She kills it for a young actor. Like she does really, really well. I really enjoy her here, and that, and the guy who plays her dad.
Oh, David Morse.
Yeah. Dude,
he kills
this guy
it.
Was fucking everywhere in the 90s. Yes, he kills it, man. Like, wasn't he in The Rock? Like, he's been in a bunch of shit, man. What's his name? And same thing for William Fichtner, the guy that plays Kent, the blind guy. He's been in The Dark Knight, Heat, Armageddon. He's in like an insane amount of movies. But I love this. I love this kind of beginning of just showing, I think this shot kind of comes up a couple different times of like the thing pulling out of her eye. I think they kind of do that. They do that at the end when it zooms in on her and, she wakes up and she's on the beach and shit. But right away you get the sense of, she's kind of a big fish in a little pond. as well. You definitely feel like this feels like a child with very adultish tendencies. You know, it doesn't seem that I wouldn't see this child throwing a fucking, those like asshole kids you see in Walmart. Like, fucking shut your kid up, dude. Like, you would never see this child do that. That's my point.
Oh yeah, I mean, when her dad dies, the priest, tries to console her, and she just goes into questioning mode. And later on, she makes a comment about she went to Sunday school. And she was just, they called her dad to tell her to leave because she kept questioning everything, So she was definitely presented as like above an average intelligence. For sure.
Hell yeah. Yeah. Dude, I tell you, I went to a private Christian school for a few years as a kid, not by choice. And I remember actually, and I was like, if God created us, what created God? And they're like, well, when you get to heaven, you can ask him. I was like, what if I don't get to heaven? And they're like, well, why would you say that? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, there's a 50-50 chance, right? And I was like, I'm just trying to figure this shit out. So I related to that, like as a kid and an adult. But I like this kind of, we see that her mother's dead, her mom died, I guess there's not a radio powerful enough that could reach there. And we also kind of transitioned to her, excuse me, we transitioned to her as an adult. And what do you think of the casting of Jodie Foster and Jenna Malone? Like, do you think this is a believable like progression, or is this like,
Personally, I think it's great. I think Jodie Foster was a great choice for this role. I think she did a very fantastic job acting and being realistic as like a scientist. She really, I think, nailed the dialogue and being passionate about, what she does. And I think she really sells it. I think she was really perfectly casted for the role. I was actually thinking about that. Who else would be, fit this role?
Oh, fuck, around this time, there's a lot of contenders, there's a lot that even still today, 1997, I guess when you try to think actresses or actors and actresses like Jodie Foster, it's like, it's hard to think because there's really not, I do feel like Jodie Foster really stands out, like there's not a whole lot of like, there's a bunch of Lindsay Lohans and Cameron Diaz and stuff like that. But Jodie Foster is like, man, not a whole lot of actors that remind you of her, like I get certain actors confused and shit, but she stands out like very well. And what a great career too. She's made, how many number one movies has she probably made? She's great. And I like it that it's a female lead, but romance is a very small part of this. It's kind of in the background, and they don't like overly sexualize her. There's not like a fucking just them fucking each other out in the fucking middle of the jungle and shit. It's like, okay, cool, thank you. But also to that too, you see a lot of, she is constantly surrounded by males all the fucking time. Like, it's very Silence of the Lambs actually. Like when you see her in the elevator and it's all the fucking dudes everywhere. That's what this feels like. It's like she's always answering to like a dude. And that's what it always, that's what it always seems like, except for like Angela Bassett, who fucking kills it in this movie, by the way. She might be one of my favorite parts. But moving on, this is where we're introduced to William Fichtner as Kent. He's blind. This must be so infuriating though. It's like, hey, we found this signal. It's like, no, that's already been mapped. Like that, how many times has somebody's heart just been like broken? That's like, oh God, it's already been mapped. I thought I found aliens or some shit. But I love this guy, William Fichtner. He's great.
Yeah. I mean, what's interesting too is, you're talking about a field where even scientists that are passionate about the possibilities of extraterrestrial life don't even really take the science that serious, right? Like people that devote their life to search for extraterrestrial intelligence. So I think it's interesting that they do show like how a lot of people don't take this seriously in the beginning. It's like it's hard for them to get funding, and that's very true to how it is. I'm sure still. To justify putting hundreds of millions of dollars into just searching for a signal that you don't even know. For all we know, we could be the only intelligent life in the universe. Like you said, it would be an awful huge waste of space. But going back to the whole, like, she's constantly surrounded by males, that's pretty realistic, I think. I don't think that there's a lot of females in that field, especially in the 90s, which I think is another thing that kind of made this movie stand out, along with the story and like going back to, Carl Sagan being ahead of his time. It was a good way to kind of not only open up the public's mind to like the vastness of space and, kind of how insignificant we are. But also, women aren't really, especially in the 90s, they weren't really well representative in the workplace,
Oh, yeah.
especially in the
well,
sciences.
in film too, yeah.
Yeah, in many areas. Of course, I think we're seeing that change a lot now, but I think that's one of the biggest strengths of this movie. Anytime someone says that in the past there weren't any good movies with a strong female lead, I just don't think that's true. I think there's so many examples of strong female leads in movies. Alien, we're talking about the 70s with Sigourney Weaver. In fact,
hell yeah.
she may have been a good cast.
Yeah. Fuck, that's a good pull. Yeah, that would have been great. I didn't even consider her. Like, fuck. Oh, fuck. That's such a good pick. I hate when someone gets a good pick and I didn't think of it. I'm like, fuck, that's a good idea. But yeah, that's a really, really good like observation where it is kind of, I was actually just reading an article while you were talking where it was like year after year after year, the percentage of women in this field, goes up. And I was like, oh, that's interesting too. Like just seeing like kind of exactly what you were saying is especially in film, but also in these kind of places where, that's why I used to really follow I Fucking Love Science. I don't so much anymore, but they always would post stuff about, hey, this woman came up with this and she was never really given, her due. And those are really, really fucking interesting. But this whole thing with her kind of meeting Ken, this is where we first meet, or they first mentioned Drumlin, Tom Skerritt, speaking of Alien. But I love Tom Skerritt. He's really good in this. He's in Dead Zone. He's in Top Gun. He's in a lot of my favorite movies. But this is just kind of where we get like the first mention of him is that, there is some kind of, I guess, friction there with the guy who's, what is he, head of like the National Science Foundation now? I guess he's like the head of it. But moving on, I gotta say, this is where we meet Matthew McConaughey, Palmer Joss. Come on, Palmer Joss. And it's like, I've never met a person with the last name Joss, nor a person with the first name Palmer. Like, that sounds like a drink. Like, let me get a Palmer Joss. It's like, it doesn't seem like a real fucking person's name. I don't really know if it's Matthew McConaughey I don't like or the character. And I think it's a bit of both. He's just kind of got that whole, they're trying to make him seem like a mystic. They're trying to make him seem like this like spiritual, this like pseudo spiritual kind of hidden, like, I don't know, some hidden kind of spiritual thing that he's got going on. And I think the part of it is just kind of like, they call it El Radar. And I was like, come on, man. And I was like, but that's the script, that's a terrible line. They call it El Radar. It's like, well, fucking of course they do. But yeah, they're also down in Puerto Rico. I guess we should have said that. But the thing that kills me is just his kind of, I don't know. It's just it's not so much of his lines. Some of his lines are kind of doozies, but I think it might be that kind of like relaxed surfer kind of like vibe that he's got going on. I'm just not a huge fan of it. I don't mind him. I think that maybe lean off of that character a little bit more. Like, don't dive into those so much. Some of his lines are doozies. I think it's hard. It's really hard to pin down what he's about in this movie.
I think, I think it was well casted. I think Matthew McConaughey was like, he played it really well. I think he was like the perfect kind of guy to play this role. But I think one main purpose of his role is to play that religious side of the religion and science argument. And, his sort of purpose here is to kind of speak for, this is the 90s. So I think this is a little bit, I think we've kind of progressed maybe a little bit more from this point, maybe not. I feel like society as a whole was a little less dogmatic than they would have been back in the 90s. But I think if you rewind back in the 90s, this was a little bit forward thinking than, your average American Christian. Because like you said, he has a sort of mystic kind of, he's kind of he makes hints that he's not super into his faith because he graduated with a master's in divinity, but then he dropped out to pursue, the negative effects of technology over taking away meaning from human beings. So I think the character's purpose is to really help play up that religious side of the argument, because I really think this film, they wanted to, as best they could, equalize each side, whether you're atheist or agnostic, or, you're a hardcore believer in the Christian doctrine. And I also think that the film probably had they probably felt they had an obligation to lean a little bit more towards the Christian side, because you got to think from like a marketing, their demographic. Say, you're releasing this movie in America, because actually coming up in this scene where McConaughey and her are talking about, they're just talking about religion, like how can you believe? And he makes an argument or a statement like, well, do you love your father? She's like, yes. And he's like, prove to me that you love your father, as if this is like some end-all argument for the existence of the Christian God.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest things about this movie that I don't like is I feel like right there would have been the perfect response for her to enter, because she makes she talks about Occam's razor, right? And so, to put it simply, it just kind of like Occam's razor is a concept that sort of like advises you to seek like the simplest explanation is usually the best one, right? So like she could have said, okay, well, hey, is it likely that the Christian God is the only one true God of all the gods, and he, purposely engineered and created all these other civilizations and religions around the world, and just they were completely geographically cut off. They had no idea, so they were just set up to fail, right? What's more likely, that we're here from processes of like evolution and randomness and determinism, or the sort of story of the Christian God? I think that would have been a great time to kind of use the Occam's razor right there. Instead, the movie just makes her like look down, as if she's kind of been, what's the word? She conceded to that. So that's one of my biggest complaints there. It's like, no, that could have gone, they could have, but again, I do think that there might have been some obligation to kind of, I don't know, maybe the word pander isn't the right one, but kind of please the audience, and also try and kind of give them that atheist scientific side too, but they didn't want to overforce that, because I feel like in the novel and where Carl Sagan was coming from, he definitely was more leaning towards the agnostic, scientific, hypercritical of faith and religion, and I don't think that was represented in this movie quite as much as it should have been. That's just my opinion. I think it's a little bit more on the religious side.
I just fucking hate Matthew McConaughey. No, I'm just kidding. No, I definitely, to kind of placate people, I think there is kind of like a religious thing. And even, I think there's also, it dips its toe in being religious and also spiritual. And I think they're trying to, like you said, remain ambiguous, agnostic, kind of spiritual, kind of what, like, And that's something you hear a lot today. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. That's a big thing. And that's kind of what we're relating to, because we know people like him who went to church and blah, blah, blah. And we're just kind of like, I believe in God, but that doesn't mean I have to go take a vow of celibacy and, do all this weird, shit. But there's something interesting about, he is kind of like that agnostic side of things, there's something like he is in that, but also a religious figure. I don't think quite prominent enough to be an advisor to the president. What the fuck? And like, I kind of laugh at that, where I'm like, this guy is an advisor. Like, I know the president has like spiritual advisors, and they, every president does, but this guy, he wrote like one book about like humanity's, technology, and he's a spiritual advisor now to I don't know, that was one of my biggest, like, yeah, I can't go there with you on that one. I can't buy that. I can't buy that cheese dick McConaughey over here is like telling the president, like, hey man, you just got to go in there and fucking slide him a doopie, man. Like it just his like stupid ass. I don't know. He's okay. His character's kind of cool, but he's got some doozy of some lines. I don't love his portrayal of him, but it does. I like it because she is kind of frigid. She is kind of, and she's giving him those vibes at most of the time. Is like not frigid just because, to be frigid, but just kind of, that's her character thing of like, I don't really get close to people. Like, I don't really get like super committed to stuff, just because, her mom and dad both died. She's probably like, if I'm not, strapped down, if I'm not committed to anything, I won't be hurt when that person's gone. Kind of thing. But I think that having him kind of be this more mellowy guy is a good juxtaposition with her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. One of my favorite kind of dialogues in the movie is actually when Matthew McConaughey is doing the CNN interview with Larry King, and he's sort of just giving an overview of like his book, like the technology is kind of taking meaning away from our lives. Like that whole speech that he's making, it's just so cool because it's so far ahead of its time. Because I was just sitting there watching this, I was like, man, you just wait till like 2020 when like the smartphones are taking over, like,
everybody's
social media.
Shit.
Yeah. So that was like, man, that's a really cool thing that was being said and stated in that way back in the 90s. But no one had any idea how invasive it would become.
Yeah. Well, there is something that I do like, from this, and he knows what set he is. He's trying to find Drumlin, but he gives her the compass, and she, I love this. He's like, hey, here you go, Elle. This is for you, and she gives it back to him. She's like, this might save your life someday. And at the end, she gets out of her seat to get the compass, and had she stayed in the seat, it would have fucking killed her. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. Like the compass was actually a thing that kind of saved her life. And like, I think that's pretty cool. And there's a lot of cool shit once she gets in that chamber. There's some really cool like symbolism there that I really enjoy. But this is where we get introduced to Tom Skerritt as David Drumlin. He doesn't really. He definitely has like an arc in this where he goes from one degree, at first he's not really that bad. He's just kind of an asshole, and then he's trying to take credit for things that are not his, and he's trying to be the person to go. And it's like, dude, you're like 65 for one thing. I don't think you should probably, no offense. Like, I'm sure you're a smart guy and very, but still that your age, like you can fucking have a heart attack, like doing that shit, like jumping through fucking like wormholes and shit. But I like his point of view. I maybe don't agree with it, but I think it's interesting where he's like, we need to stop wasting money on pie in the sky abstractions and start spending it on practical, measurable ways to improve the lives of the people who are, after all, footing the bill. And I was like, and that's an interesting way of like, should everything be profitable? Should everything be practical? But do you go away with pure research? There's something interesting where he is going to the left and Jodie Foster's kind of going to the right, where it's like pure research versus practical. It's this interesting kind of like dance they do the whole movie. And it kind of feels like McConaughey's in the middle of that scale as well. He's like, I get, we need technology, we need science, but at the same time, we can't kind of, just spend our lives looking at screens and looking for a lot, it might seem like a waste or, but I love Tom Skerritt's point of view in this movie though. It's really good.
Yeah,
especially his dialogue. It's killer, man.
Yeah, it's very realistic, actually. I think how he's like, all about like the business and like looking at it from that point of view. One thing I do really like, is speaking from like a cinematography point of view, is how Zemeckis did the shot from her running up to the stairs when her dad collapses to get the medication out of the mirror, and it's sort of one shot and it flows into the mirror. That may not be like super amazing like these days, but like back in the day, I thought that was really cool. I remember.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's impossible. Like I actually watched, there's like a 40-second video on YouTube of somebody, I don't know who it is, explaining it. I think it's somebody, I don't know if it's a cinematographer or Robert Zemeckis, but he's like, yeah, so basically what we did was we had a cameraman, and we had to paint his arm out of the frame, and she's not reaching for like anything. There's really nothing there. He's like, we blue screened her in the foreground. And I was like, oh, wow. Shit. So everything behind her is fake. And I was like, that is fucking cool, man. I was like, that scene is such a mindfuck when you see it. You're like, wait, what? I remember watching that and going like, hold on. Like, it definitely took me a second to like, what the fuck?
I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
Oh, I was going to say I think one thing that made this movie so grand for me and like why I love it so much is because it was directed by Robert Zemeckis. And so it just has that feel. I mean, Back to the Future, like, oh my gosh, like, that movie is just like one of the, it feels so good to watch that. It feels like such a good movie. And I think, you watch Castaway and just the work that he put in with Tom Hanks about that movie. So Zemeckis is really devoted to making, he just has that Hollywood timeless feel. In my opinion.
No, dude, absolutely. And I used to, growing up, everybody's like, oh, Spielberg. And I was like, yeah, that guy's a great director. But like Robert Zemeckis has always been like, that is a perfect filmmaker. Like I love everything that he does. Even the movies that aren't really that, I think he did like, didn't he do What Lies Beneath? Didn't you say?
Yeah.
which is not, I mean, it's not a perfect movie by any means, but I love the feeling of that movie. Like you said, there's just this ambience that radiates from Robert Zemeckis shit, and you can feel it. And Tom Hanks has some cool stories about writing Castaway, and Robert Zemeckis, like him sending him, I don't know how many copies, and he would go, nope, this is wrong. Come back with me when you got, and would just keep sending it back until Tom Hanks got it right. So like, dude obviously knows his shit. He's made some of the best films ever made. But I also feel like Robert Zemeckis, like, if you go to somebody like, hey, do you know who Steven Spielberg is? Like, oh yeah. Like, hey, do you know who, like name off like, like, do you know who Wes Craven is? Like, yeah, the guy who made Freddy Krueger. It's like, do you know who Robert Zemeckis is? They'd probably be like, the average person might, it's not a recognizable like household name. And that's always blown my mind, especially Frighteners. I don't know if he directed that. I think he produced it, but we covered that before. Have you ever seen Frighteners?
I haven't seen it.
Oh my God. It's kind of goofy, but it's really fucking good. I think it's directed by, Peter Jackson, is produced by Robert Zemeckis, but it's badass.
Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, we talk about Back to the Future, which is huge, right? But like in the 90s, like one of the biggest movies was Forrest Gump. And that movie, the way it was directed and everything, I think really just set the bar for like a 90s movie. And I think that is so cool that the director of Forrest Gump, because I love that movie, directs this movie. So there's just so many things about Zemeckis that I like.
Yeah, and there's something too when you see a movie like Goodfellas, is kind of, you see a person's life played out over hours. Really, when you think about some of the best movies ever made, it's like Shawshank Redemption, like Goodfellas, Forrest Gump. It's like it's somebody's life laid out from like beginning to end, just done very well. And I kind of noticed that between those three, and I was like, man, that's kind of interesting, But especially, his shit in this, I like the dialogue, where he's like, you can consider me a man of the cloth without the cloth. Yeah, I like that line. That's cool. Like, I thought that was an interesting, like, some of his lines are doozies, but I love that one. I love when she's like, you want to get out of here? It's like, I'm getting fucking laid tonight. You can hear it in his fucking head. But they go to El Radar, and they're talking about, she's pointing out all the stars, there's 400 billion stars out there. And dude, just a coincidence, the whole like, well, it'd be an awful waste of space. It's like, and she's sunk. She's at this point, she's drenched. I'm just going to say it. She is. Like he says that, she's like, oh my God. And plus it's fucking Matthew McConaughey in the 90s. I mean, dude, he's fucking gorgeous. Like I can say that, and like, as somebody who's not attracted to men, but it's like objectively, that's a gorgeous dude. Like, of course, maybe not Jodie Foster per se, because she's not, she doesn't like men, but the thing that cracks me up is like seeing them waking up together, and he's like, is this your dad? It's like, dude, you've known this woman for like 4 days. I maybe wouldn't start talking about her dead dad after you just finished plowing her. Like, I would not probably go into, you know what I mean? Like, imagine, yeah, like my dad passed away fucking 10 years ago, but if I were having sex and somebody was like, so tell me about your dad, I'd be like, what? I'm like, where the fuck did that come from? But I like the fact that she's not fully kind of committed to this. You can see him be like, hey, I'll go get breakfast. Hey, I'll go do this. And she's like, nah, I gotta go. I'll see you later. Have some breakfast, hang out, blah, blah, blah. But it's not one of these things where, I think the thing that's actually interesting about it is seeing the flip on this, and seeing the dude. It's normally a guy being like, no, I got a big meeting, I gotta go, blah, blah. Right. But seeing the flip, but also seeing her, it's not really something that she wants to do, but she just is, it's like a safety mechanism, it's kind of like an animal's just, a natural thing. It's just like, once you get too close, you bounce back, you jump away. And I like that, but I love the second guessing of her, just like, like when she goes outside and kind of, it's like, fuck. But the second she goes out there and she starts feeling bad, she looks up and it's like, she sucked right back in. She's like, nope, this is why I'm here, Oh, yeah. It shows what her true passion is, science and the search for extraterrestrial life. That's a really good point. Yeah, thank you. I know I'm very intelligent. No, I'm just kidding. But this is where we just kind of talked about this, and I don't want to be redundant and shit, but this is where we talked about that impossible shot. We see her dad, passes away, which sucked. I fucking love this actor, and he's only in this for like 5 minutes. but it's awesome seeing that she doesn't sit there and cry. It's like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I? She's like, I'll go get your pills, and just runs. It's like, dude, that is a very intelligent, like child. Like that is a very, very smart kid. And just knowing, like, not that she's cold, she's just not a very emotional person, and I like that about her. I am not an extremely emotional person, and it kind of, it's not something where my emotions are easily, even in shit like this, where somebody fucking knocks their head on a wall and falls down. It's like, okay, grab something. Like, it's like, I can't sit there and be like, oh my God, what do I do? It's like, oh fuck. Like, it's just one of those fight or flight things where, like, I don't have flight. I'm like, I gotta fix this shit. Like, what the hell's going on? Because again, I'm a very intelligent person. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. What are you going to say?
Well, when the priest is consoling her, she makes the comment that, if I should have just kept some pills downstairs and I wouldn't, I might have been able to save him, while he's trying to tell her, we're not meant to understand everything, and, the religious side of it, most kids would just, listen, and they would, I don't want to say shut down, but most kids, I feel like, wouldn't question that to that degree. And so it really shows, the level of intelligence to her character. And I think in the book, there's a scene where she questions something her teacher's telling her about math, and the teacher actually calls her stupid, and she kind of cries and runs out. And I just thought that was interesting because, I think what Carl Sagan was trying to do is just to point out, you shouldn't, make kids feel bad for questioning something.
Right.
Just because you don't know as an adult, or you don't feel like explaining it, it's not, you can always say, well, I don't know, let's look. But in fact, a lot of teachers and parents will just be like, that's the way it is, shut up.
No, yeah, that's how I was raised. You just got smacked in the head. You were told to shut the fuck up. No, I'm just kidding. But no, I like that. I definitely agree with that assessment. That, just like not just bringing the hammer down every time somebody questions what you're doing. Like that's a place where somebody can learn, somebody can grow. But this is where we got Kent, telling us, hey, Drumlin's pulled the plug. We're homeless. I love the shot of her pulling up to that one long shot of her driving up the hill. But of course she gets pissed, and I love that. Dude, his dialogue here is fucking brutal, where he's like, only two possibilities. One, you'll find it, life out in outer space, and, you'll be dead by the time it happens. Or two, there's nothing out there but noble gases and carbon compounds, and you're wasting your time. It's like, fuck, that is good, dude. It's like, oh, he's so boss, man. Like, and he's one of the few men I've ever seen that's like, that's a good mustache. I was like, very few men can like rock it's one of those people where it's like, if you saw him without a mustache, you'd be kind of pissed. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's like Tom Selleck, but, and this guy's great. I mean, Tom Skerritt's in, Steel Magnolias. Like, I love that movie growing up. My mom watched that all the fucking time.
Yeah.
And this.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, go for it.
I had a little stage when I was a young kid where I really liked Steel Magnolias. I thought it was a funny, like, cool movie.
Yeah, man. We watched it all the fucking time. And like, it taught me what seizures were. I didn't know. Wow. I had no idea what a seizure was, and somebody had to explain it to me. And then I was like, oh, okay, gotcha. Makes sense now. But so they get the plug pulled. She's going to go and try to collect money. Hollywood's been making money off of years for aliens. It's time to. I was like, that's a cool line. I fucking dig that. But she's had an industry. She's making her pitch. Yeah, I like this, her thing of being, kind of riled up. She's like, have some kind of like imagination, have, even if it fails, like you still learned something, even if it doesn't, even if it comes back and there's nothing there, you still learn that there's nothing there. That's what I like about her, is like, you should never really stop, using science for research and just trying to find stuff out. And I think that's what's interesting about her. She's kind of like, I don't know. She's just kind of like a cat chasing its tail, just this always like research kind of thing. I think that's really cool, but I love the way the scene is set up too. Yeah.
She does a great job acting like a real scientist here too. And I think this is a good scene to kind of showcase that they indeed picked one of the best actresses for the job. Do they just say actor now for females? They don't say actresses anymore. Is that?
I don't honestly. I just hate saying the word actress. It's like well, you're an actor. Like, you're not if you work in a bakery, you're a baker. You're not a bakeress. Like, that isn't. It's a fucking job, man. But yeah, I like this. She's just saying, just try. Just give it some kind of thought, and you automatically get the sense just these fucking. These three Patrick Bavens that are hanging out are all just kind of like and like smirking at each other. But I like that Haddon's watching. He gives her the research to go. I love the way she looks in the camera. She's like, thank you. And walks off. It's like, that's cool, dude. That's when she's charming as fuck. I love Jodie Foster in this. You can see why that guy tried to kill Reagan. No, I'm just kidding. That guy got out. The guy who tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan is like out. Has been out for a while. I was like, holy shit. Like, about that shit where the guy tried to kill Reagan for Jodie Foster.
A little bit.
Like John Hinckley, this fucking crazy. He was literally, he's crazy. He had mental problems, and he thought if he killed Reagan that Jodie Foster would fall in love with him after watching Taxi Driver.
That's
and
crazy.
I was like, what the fuck? But he's out. Like I think he lives with his parents or something like that. But
wow, that's terrifying.
I don't think he. Well, I think he was legit. I mean, he was very disturbed, and they were said like, "Hey, he's actually fine now. Like he's been doing, since the 80s. He's been in a mental institution. So hopefully, maybe try to kill somebody, but at the same time, hopefully he got the help that he needed. If they let him out, I fucking hope so. Like,
so one thing that I find interesting here, I don't know, maybe you would agree, when she is out in the desert listening, and like that guy, I think his name's Willie, he's like out there like fishing or something in like a kiddie pool. I get super Twister vibes with,
yep.
You know what I'm talking about? Like it's
yes.
something about that scene and where we're at that just brings out some Twister vibes with Bill Paxton, and I don't know why, but it's something about it.
No, it definitely does. You have these like kooky characters. There's a big white van. They're all kind of like they're all chasing something from nature. It's like it's kind of weird. You have a blind guy, you have the guy with glasses, you have the weird bearded, hippie kind of guy. You've got all these different people. But yeah, there is something that's that did become such a trope though, of just like, I'm sure he's wearing like socks with sandals, and he, eats his sandwiches, from the inside out or something, whatever. Like he does some weird shit. But that was kind of like the Philip Seymour Hoffman and Twister, Dusty. Like that's that kind of character that just became like this kind of like Charlie from Always Sunny, like fucking wild card bitches. He's just this wild fucking person. But of course, there's again, like even as they get funding from Haddon, their government owned telescopes that they're leasing, they think they're wasting time. Again, we've kind of, this is the only thing, is that they pull the funding at like the 27-minute mark, and then by the 32-minute mark, we've hit the same problem again. It's like, I don't know. I don't need, it seems almost a little repetitive, but it also, I like it because it also does show like, not only when you get the funding, is that enough, people still will think you're wasting your time and take this away from you. Like, it always seems like there's like an uphill battle. And I do like that within the first 32 minutes of the movie. It's like her dad has died. She's getting funding taken away. She's got, now they're talking about taking away the satellites. It's like, I think that's kind of cool because it builds the stack more of exactly what is at stake and what people, like you said earlier, of like even people in this field thinking about what you're doing, not just some guy who works at, fucking Amazon or something, like actual people in your field thinking you're fucking wasting your life. Like, yeah, that would, I'd hate to work there. Imagine if you went to work every day and there's just people that are like, that guy's wasting his life doing this. Like, fuck, man. Like, what the hell? But this is, her listening, and going out to the desert. This is where you were talking about that interview with Palmer Joss on Larry King. But I love seeing Larry King and stuff. He pops up in like Ghostbusters, pops up in like Eddie and the Cruisers, and it's like, I love him popping up and stuff.
Yeah.
He just makes a world feel so real. Just this kind of real world. Which actually, he just passed away this year, didn't he?
He did, yeah. But I was thinking about that Ghostbusters scene with, they had the music, and man, yeah, that's like super timeless. I'll never forget that scene.
No, yeah, and he makes, when you're trying to make a fictional thing seem like it has real world implications, having Larry King sitting there with the sleeves rolled up and stuff, it definitely makes it feel it definitely makes it feel a little bit more genuine. But I like what you said, Palmer Joss. He's like, we shop at home, we shop on the internet, and we feel like we're more connected, but we're more cut off than ever than any time in human history. We're becoming a synthesized society in a great big hurry to get onto the net. And it just kind of like pulls off. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of a little prophetic. It's kind of a little true. Especially now with like fucking, I mean, look at Amazon Prime. Like, I could buy something right now and it'd be here by the time we finish recording. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one could say it's kind of sad to think like, where we were at in the 90s with, what he's talking about, losing faith, consumerism, putting meaning into just buying more like meaningless material things, to just fast forward 20 years in the 21st century. And it's just kind of, it's gotten a little more of an issue, I think. And I do like the name of his book on Larry King, Losing Faith. And I think that's interesting.
That should be a Faith No More album. Just Losing Faith, and that'd be good. Excuse me, I got something stuck in my throat. That's when Zoheb would go, "This dick." Literally, I bet you $100 if he's listening to this, Zoheb just went, "This dick." But we get a little bit of this interview, but then the infamous. Dude, this sound is so terrifying, but awesome at the same time. There's just something, just that wow, wow, wow. It's what the fuck is going on?
The whole scene where she's in her car and she's like radioing in. Again, Twister vibes from this scene. But this is one of my favorite scenes in the movie because it really just starts picking up. Like finally, 37 minutes in, we
right.
finally get that, oh man, like here we go.
Right. We finally get exactly what we're here for, like why we signed up. But even the way that, again, when this happens, we zoom in on a shot of Ellie's eyes. This is a recurring thing of like seeing the universe in her eyes kind of thing. It happens more and more. Well, not more and more, but it happens a little bit more as you watch it more times. You start really kind of noticing there's a lot of shots on her eyes and just revolving around that kind of shit. But just the excitement, every person in this scene sells the fuck out of this. It's like, dude, act like the world is on fire. Like, go, 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 go. Like you just discovered extraterrestrial life. Like, what an insane. Also, how the fuck did she afford that car? What the fuck? That's like a badass muscle car. What the hell are you doing out there? Like, I think I know where the research money's going.
Yeah, it's such an interesting choice. I don't know why they would have chose that car of all cars.
You're right.
It doesn't really make sense to me for the character. She just doesn't strike me as somebody that would be driving that personally. I don't know. I don't understand that choice, but
yeah. Well, and it made me laugh because it's like, how big is this place? Couldn't you just get like a 4-wheeler? Like, couldn't you just have like a golf cart? Like, driving like you got to pay insurance on this thing. Now you got payments. It's like, yeah, you got a whole thing going on. Excuse me. But yeah, just this whole scene, the frantic energy of all of this. And I don't understand a word of what they're fucking saying. Declination, strong possible pulse chain on Subray 4. It's like, I am totally believing all of this because this is the power of this movie,
When she opens both doors, like she just opens them really hard as the camera's going through. I like that shot. I like shots that are just one shot with no cuts for a little bit. I always think that those are neat.
Hell yeah. Well, because it helps the believability of it. It helps you feel like you're really in this moment. And again, and staying with that frantic energy of like running up the stairs, the doors flying open, everybody's flying around. But yeah, this is where we, like I said, we get that first signal and the feeling when it stops and she's like, oh no. Like you feel, first time I saw this, I remember being like, like, no, fucking don't, man. Like, don't tell me. And then it started up again. And I was like, okay, cool. I thought it was going to be one of those things where like 2 days later, she's out there again and only she can hear it. And I was like, oh, this fucking sucks.
Yeah, if you notice on the top left of the computer screen, it says Haddon.
Yeah, I did. I saw that.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of neat.
There's little... there's little things all throughout this where you're like, is he really responsible? Like, what is going on with him? And we can get into that too, just because, whenever we get a little bit more of Haddon, but but just again, just this whole feeling of them, they're saying it's coming from Vega, which is so funny too. You know, now it's like, oh, the vegan army. It's like, well, now vegan is like, it's a term everybody fucking knows. But I like the fact what made me laugh is they sent it to Australia, and I was like, of course, we have 2 fucking hosts, you know, and they sent like, I that's the only reason why I wish Zohad was here, because I'd be like, oh, look at that fucking guy, he's from Australia, asshole, you know. But they figure out that it's sending prime numbers, you know, numbers that are only divisible by 1 in itself. And they try to figure out who they're going to call. It's Ghostbusters. No, I'm just kidding. But the thing that I love is the fact that it is undeniably intelligent because it is prime numbers. Because it's like, we know math. Like it's kind of like a flare that there has to be some kind of intelligence, and I love that. Well, this is what I don't get is they're like, who are we going to call? You know, who are we going to, send this to? And does she just call the press? Does she just tell everybody? Or does she actually call like any kind of like, I can't figure out who she calls, but there's so much press there that it's like, did she just start calling all of the news stations and then called like the science, whatever? It's like, they don't really make it clear exactly what's going on, but it's like, there's so much when they rock up and Tom Skerritt is just looking at all the press. It's like, oh my fucking God, this is a nightmare, and like, watch this be wrong too, like oh man, you imagine doing all of this shit and then they'd be like, oh, it's some kid with like a, with like a radio up in a mountain somewhere, like doing some crazy shit.
I mean, it's just the movie does such a good job at like making you feel like this is real. Like, I mean, you just imagine if this was real and you were receiving this signal, like what that would feel like. Oh my God. Like we would just be like, it's in disbelief, like you would just be checking everything. Is this the Russians? Is this, some kid on a mountain? Like, what is this real?
Right. Well, because you don't want to be an alarmist, but also you don't want to get yourself hyped up to be like, it's aliens. It's aliens. It's like, no, let me just make sure this is like nothing else. Yeah. Let's just be 100% sure. And I like, we get the introduction of James Woods, where he's like, why don't you just speak English? It's like, Jesus Christ, man. Like that cracks me up, when you hear people that are like, I don't, what do you speak? Like, I speak American. It's like, oh, yes. But the fact that it's speaking in mathematics, like, of course, they're not going to be speaking English. Is not even, English is not the predominant language of the world. It just really kind of shows you the mindset of these officials, that are around her. Just the kind of stupidity of like, yeah, no, let's just speak English. It's like, like that's fucking mind blowing.
Yeah, I think James Woods, he kills it in that role. He's such a 90s kind of face too. I really like how he played the character.
Yeah, I love James Woods as an actor. Like as a person, I think he kind of had like some crazy shit going on, like in his personal life. I can't remember. I think he's an interesting guy. I don't really know. I'm not saying anything bad about him. I'm just saying like I think he's led a very interesting life.
Well, he plays an asshole really well.
Yes, he does. And especially, what is that fucking movie? Oh, John Carpenter's Vampires. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't.
Oh my God. It's one of the cheesiest movies. His name is Jack Crow in the movie, and he hunts vampires. It's like, oh my God, that's such a cheese dick line, like or name. It just cracks me up. But, she's explaining this to them, why are we just hearing about this now? More than likely this has been going on for years, trying to travel here. But I love that William Fichtner is not just at the beginning, who plays Kent, and then he's gone. He is here the whole movie. Like he's there at the end. He's here when they just took over the signal. And this guy's great in Heat as Van Zant. I love him in Heat. He plays such a different character, like such a little bitch compared to who he's playing right here. But that's where they figure out not only is there a signal, but there's video. His scene, it's such a showstopper to me when they're talking and he just waves his hammer, shh, everybody stops and he's like, there's more here. Yeah, there's definitely something more. It's like, oh, dude, the excitement of what we just felt like 10 minutes ago is back again. It's like, chugga, 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 chugga. Like, what's going on? Like, what exactly is it? But the turn of it being the swastika is like, what? And you can see James Wood. That's one of my favorite parts is James Wood going, okay.
Perfect timing too when they show that, because it looks threatening and then you have military presence there too, so like it was just well timed how they introduced that scene.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when it goes from when it goes from James Woods, they go over to Kent, and Kent, of course, speaks German. Of course, this guy, they just happen to have a guy on hand that speaks German. It just made me laugh, and I was like, it's believable. It's not a crazy popular language, but it's believable. It's believable. We're also introduced to who is really not in this movie as much as I wish she was, but I really love Angela Bassett as I can't remember Rachel Constantine. I don't know exactly if she's like the press secretary or like I don't know what exactly they ever say her. Or I think she's like Madam Secretary, but no, go for it.
Is she the Speaker of the House? I'm not sure. Maybe she is press secretary.
I can't remember. But she's badass because as soon as they start doing this like West Wing bullshit, they start walking through the White House and they're doing these like whipping like cameras and they're all walking and talking and stuff. And she's like, so 20 million people died defeating this son of a bitch, and he's our first ambassador. It's like that's a good fucking line. But just the kind of you feel that these are the powers that be. You feel that these are the people, these five are really kind of our major players in this game. We have the military aspect from James Woods. We have the science from Ellie, but then we have someone who's kind of in the middle of that who wants to use the science for their own benefit. You have the White House. Like you have all of these major players right here of exactly who they are. And what everybody wants too. Where everybody stands at this point in the movie. And this is a constant thing that happens with Tom Skerritt and Jodie Foster, and it's definitely intentional, obviously, and it pisses me the fuck off when he talks over and like interrupts her, and he's always like, what I'm saying is, and he just jumps into the scene. He's like, God, you play such an asshole so well, and it's so subtle. It's nothing like where he's like, I'm going to ruin your career and I'm going to fucking cut your head off. He's very subtly manipulative, and tries to kind of assert himself. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. And I mean, God, like how just awful when he takes credit for the discovery in front of the whole world in the White House briefing.
Right.
Yeah. That's crazy that they, wrote this script, because that just seems like something that would happen in real life to me.
That and like I was saying earlier, you can find articles en masse across the internet of like women who weren't given discovery credit for stuff at the time, but retroactively were given stuff later on. It's really it's fucked up, but it's also interesting to see of like there's so many discoveries that are not given credit for that. Like you said, this feels. Especially, you know more about the realm of like science than I do, but even I am like, that seems kind of believable in this kind of field,
Right. Yeah. I think, like the President Clinton, how they pushed, they digitally put him in to look, like as if he was in the movie. That was really, really cool. Super nostalgic seeing that. I haven't even thought about, because I was born in 86, so my whole childhood was in the 90s. So the president was just like, Clinton. And it's just super nostalgic watching this again and seeing those clips. I think he was talking about the clip that they used of him. I think he was talking about some discovery on Mars, if my memory serves me correctly.
I found this article on Mental Floss, and apparently the article is why the film Contact annoyed Bill Clinton. And apparently, they ended up blah, blah, blah. It resulted in a formal complaint being lodged by Bill Clinton's White House. The issue surrounded by some footage of Clinton in 96 at a press conference in which the POTUS was talking about a rock was believed to have come from Mars. In the film, Zemeckis edited the footage to make it seem as if Clinton was talking about the messages that had seemingly come from the alien sources. So apparently it just kind of the filmmakers apparently hadn't asked permission. Spokesperson for Warner Brothers maintained the studio believed it had been completely frank and upfront with the White House on this issue, and the complaint from the administration argued that the use of the almost unedited material was quote unquote inappropriate. It's like, it's public. Yeah. It's like, dude, you imagine trying to do that now and be like, dude, you're on YouTube. Like, this is free shit. Like, what are you talking about? Like, get the fuck out of here, man.
Oh my God. I mean, this was such a different world when this movie was made. I mean, there was no YouTube. The internet was like dial up. No smartphones.
Yeah, oh God.
I mean, I don't even think you had flip phones really. I mean, I guess there were some, but there was no like Razor like we had in like 2005.
No. I remember my dad's Nokia playing Snake on it,
Snake.
you know, and like trying to go, I love playing that thing. But yeah, this is a terrible spot that they kind of put her, that Drumlin puts her in, because I understand as the head of this national science, whatever, like I definitely understand that your name will be tossed around, but you should not have been, brought up there. And you can say like, well, maybe she, it's for the science and stuff like that. Maybe it shouldn't be for the fame and shit, but it's like, no. This is like, that's easy for me to say. I wouldn't give a shit. Like, I don't want to be on camera in front of a bunch of people and everybody recognize me. Like, I don't want to do that shit. Some crazy person might think I'm like a demon and blow me up, like what happens in this. But yeah, they really kind of vilify him. This is, we've had subtle moments, but this is the one that really kind of the screw turns really hard here. And you definitely feel that they've kind of vilified, that he's vilified, Tom Skerritt a lot more. And there's a lot more moments too coming up that are really great. But I like that as he's taking credit, she goes back to work. That's what I fucking love. Is she's like, I get a call, boom, I'm out of here. Like, and had she been up there, she never would have been there to get the call to figure out that there's these schematics and the image of Hitler. Which the movie feels like one of those Russian nesting dolls where it's like something inside of something inside of something inside of, it just feels like it's like, what's there going to be in the ink on the schematics? Is there going to be some kind of code to like, you never have to put the Grand Theft Auto cheat codes in or something? Like, what is the code? I felt like there was going to be something else in there. Like this thing just kept going. But it's exciting too, just the fact that it keeps progressing.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've always kind of wondered if the universe was kind of like that, like the Russian doll, something within something, just forever. You just like you go infinitely small. It's just always something, or infinitely big. But it's not hidden, but one really cool gem here in this movie is Rob Lowe. It's so easily forgettable, but he comes in. I guess he seems like he's like a Republican politician or something, because he's speaking for like the religious part of the political spectrum. Anyway, I just thought that was funny because I forgot. I was like, oh my gosh, Rob Lowe is in this.
No, yeah, it's definitely not off-putting, but it's distracting because it's like, for such a small role, like what, did Rob Lowe just want to say, hey, I did a Zemeckis movie, like fuck it, I'm in contact, because it's basically a big cameo, it's like he really only kind of pops up once or twice. It feels like Cheech Marin in From Dusk Till Dawn. It's like this guy just randomly popping up like through the movie that's like a minor character, but it's played by a really, really good actor, like just kind of random shit popping up like that. But dude, this scene is absolutely great. They're talking about how they want to militarize this right away. And I will say that there's something, she's not an emotional character, but when they try to like start fucking with this, it's like very Mama Bird. It's very like, no, fuck you, fuck off. Like, I'm not playing this game. Like, I like that. It's obviously it's her work, but it's also a very assertive position where we don't normally see her get so riled up. It's almost out of character. She's like, David, nobody knows more about these procedures than I do. You tell, it's like, whoa. That's not something it was kind of jarring, but at the same time, you understand what's at stake for her. And that's what made it believable for me. Is like, yeah, I like the fact that she kind of has a little bit of a freak out. And the fact that Drumlin's like, for now on, I'll use this as my headquarters. I'll take over. Oh, we're going to militarize this. And it's interesting seeing Angela Bassett, who's like, from now on, she will be the one in charge, with the express, blah, 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 that we're not going to leak any more information to anybody. But I kind of just want to fucking punch Rob Lowe in the face. I hate his character in this movie, dude.
For sure. It's just like,
it's so annoying.
Yeah, and it's so realistic too, because there is that group, of people that he was
especially in the 90s.
Oh yeah, I mean, people were just, when it comes to like the Christian faith, I feel like in the 90s in America, people were a lot more dogmatic than they are now. They didn't now, there's just too much like connection, globalism to other cultures and stuff. I feel like a lot of dogmatism has kind of died down a little bit, or at least I'd like to think so. But back then, for sure.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, like it just, you kind of see that like, okay, maybe we don't have to put pennies on the eyes of the dead anymore. It's like, I don't really think we have to do that anymore. But yeah, this just this whole, you're seeing the ramifications of it on the world. We see these screens start popping up. Now we're out, now we're out on location where all these fucking people show up. And it was a one-eyed, one-person something fucking people leader. That song's always cracked me up when I heard it as a kid. There's UFO abduction insurance. There's Nazis who pop up who I guess are like, no, it's Hitler's an alien. Like, we love him, which is hilarious. It's like, you got balls to show up to this place, man. You got balls showing up, fucking wearing your swastikas and shit. But again, like you said, it's realistic,
Yeah, could you imagine, like, if we discover aliens without a shadow of a doubt, it's exactly how it's going to be. There's just going to be tons of people in their RVs representing their little groups. You're gonna have the extremists. By the way, what's Jake Busey? Oh my gosh, I think he just killed it in this role at playing the extremist. I love that character. He looks the part. He sells it. And what a surprise when he, is the one responsible for like detonating he's a suicide bomber essentially. Like, I remember seeing that for the first time. I was like, whoa. Like, I did not see that.
Yeah, it's definitely a shock. Well, and to see him, like, he pops up again in Frighteners. He's one of the main characters in Frighteners. And, I got to say, like, I like Gary Busey. Gary Busey's in a lot of great movies, especially, like Silver Bullet. I actually really like him in Predator 2. Like, I like that character. I like that movie a lot just because I grew up with it. But I like Jake Busey. Dude, that guy is so recognizable, and you might quite not know who he is right away. You're like, wait, I fucking know that dude. Like, I've seen him in some shit. He's a very distinguishable looking person. He's in Stranger Things 3. He's in a lot of like really cool shit. But
I like the choir. Hell to Vega.
Yeah. To Vega. And what's that one? The people on top of the RV singing "Spirit in the Sky." I was like, that's hilarious. I like that. But now they're fucking with these schematics. They're trying to figure out what's going on. They can't. There's a primer in there. They can't quite get these things to connect. Ellie comes back to her hotel room and she ends up talking with this person kind of in secret who we know is Haddon. But I don't think right here they really kind of exactly spell out who it is. But I like that she's like, listen, you broke these codes, you broke into the database. And as soon as they start giving her like information of like what she wants, it's like, okay, like, I'll shut the fuck up for a minute. Like, what's going on? But just I know, John Hurt can seem kind of not hokey in this, but he's just a little too like, kind of just this wild card. But I can't hate a John Hurt performance. I don't really care what he's in. He is usually the best thing about a lot of movies he's in. Speaking of another person from Alien, like, fuck, man. Like, that's really crazy just that we have all these. That's like the third or fourth Alien reference. But what did you think of him, like, the first time you saw this? Even now, like, is it something that is like, or how do you feel about it?
I think it overall, like, I didn't really have anything too crazy nitpicky. I think overall, like, it's a good performance. I think you were saying it when we were talking about this. You want to take a ride? Maybe that was a little over the top, but that was such a big moment in this movie. Like the unveiling of like, hey, we have a whole nother location with a whole nother vessel or whatever, which was that was really unexpected. I don't know if that would be 100% realistic, but I do like how they how they sell it to the audience by saying, it was developed, I think by the Americans, by Japanese. What was the word? I can't remember the exact line in the movie. But
it's like Japanese contractors, but funded by Americans.
Yeah. It really did a good job selling it. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, and especially I like I can't remember what the line is he's like, why buy one when you can have two for twice the price? It's like, yeah, that sounds like government spending. Like, that sounds like just fucking throwing money around.
I guess I wish that they would have gone into a little bit more background of his character, because like we don't really know. I mean, he just kind of sort of shows up and like we're not given a lot of information about like how legit is this guy. They seem to know enough about him in the court hearing at the end of the movie. When they bring up like this is all his fantasy, last dying effort to, fool everybody. So I wish that there was a little bit more given to us about like where this guy came from.
Yeah, like there is an angle of like I do want that, and then I think it's something that has to be done minimally though, to where it's like it's like, what does Wayne Enterprises do? Like what is exactly what I'm just kind of curious, like what is the company, like what is, you never really know what these people do. I like the mystery of him, which is cool. He is just kind of almost like a tropey, a British Bond villain who's bald. It does kind of have that feel, especially with the big like gold rimmed glasses. But I wouldn't mind just kind of knowing like, so did this guy like run Amazon? Like what did this guy do? Like, where's he coming from? But he's kind of got this like, Leo DiCaprio in The Aviator, kind of, Howard Hughes, crazy ass, eccentric billionaire guy. But I really, really do enjoy this conversation, though, as they're talking. He says, you've been dealt out. I didn't think I was dealt out. Well, you're certainly being handed your hat. Like, oh, that's such a fucking good line. Of like, he can tell she's getting sidelined. He can tell she's being pushed out of the way. But some of his shit, there are many governments, business interests, even religious leaders that would like to see me depart this earth. And I'll grant them their wish soon enough. But before I do, I'd like to make a small contribution. Basically, he gives her I've always pronounced it primer. Do you say primer or do you say primer?
I think I say primer.
I do too, and it kind of drives me nuts. I was like, primer? Like, I don't, okay, I guess it can go either way. Like potato, but it's like, I don't, like, primer just sounds kind of weird to me. The only thing that I find kind of hokey is when he starts showing her exactly how everything connects, and she's like, yes, of course. She kind of I was like, I'm sorry, are we back in Silence of the Lambs? Like, this feels like a Silence of the Lambs scene. It's kind of, she has an interesting way of talking that is kind of annoying sometimes, I'll be honest. Like, she kind of has this thing where she talks like with
it's almost like a country twang or something, like a southern
it's like
drawl.
It's like the mouth is shaped like a twang, but there's no like, it's a strange way that she talks that I've just kind of noticed after like the 10th time of watching this movie. But he breaks it down. The schematics are in 3 dimensions. Of course, these people are moving. They're an advanced civilization. Of course, it's going to be in 3, which is kind of crazy too, where you're like, how fucking smart is this dude? Like, I get it. He might have been the one to make all of this shit up. And there's like little evidence. I don't think the movie is trying to sell that at the end, but it's an interesting kind of twist that maybe he is just fucking with everybody. And he just happened to be smart enough to figure out that that this is the way the primer is done. Like, I don't know. It's interesting. I guess he is just insanely intelligent. I guess he's more intelligent than the person who discovered all this shit, just to figure this out on his own. But I think it's honestly interesting only from a screenwriting kind of point of view, where it's like, we don't need to show how intelligent he is. We just need to show that he might be pulling the strings on stuff. When she starts kind of getting sidelined, he's there to kind of like bounce her back up. It's like a volleyball. He's there to smack it back up. And it's like, that's interesting. It's like she is his like kind of champion. It's like, you are the one representing me in there, whether they know it or not. I think is a very interesting thing.
One thing I'm not clear on is why how did he find her, and why was he keeping tabs on her exactly? Maybe I missed it, or was that explained?
I don't know if he ever says exactly why. I don't know if it's maybe him just thinking that. I think that's kind of where the movie's kind of trying to throw a curveball. Because you could say he just saw this like, wild-eyed, imaginative kind of like scientist who's wanting to actually find something, who's not just like a suit, like a boring person, and he took an interest in her. Like, okay, that's interesting, but then there's also the twist of like, did he find a perfect victim to exploit, to try to do this thing?
Right. And he has all her
well.
past, right? Like he has, it's like he's been following her almost her whole life, which I was not sure if that's how it's being presented. Like, why did he choose her at such a young age? Is it because she was so smart? Did she have like really high grades or something?
That's what I was wondering. I was like, I don't know how long he's been following her. It's got to be when she walked in and got the funding. That's got to be the first time, because there's no indication of him before or after that. Or, I'm sorry, before that. but still, I mean, that's a long time. It's been, they probably were out there for months, maybe years, like doing this shit. So it is kind of like, why are you? Is it just you sent some kind of like almost kinship in there, like, or is it for more kind of diabolical means? I didn't even really think about that. It's interesting you brought that up. Is why is he even following her? Is another interesting thing as well. Is it? I never even really considered that, like what his motives might be.
Yeah, and I think Occam's razor, she talks about it sort of in the beginning of the movie. It's funny because, at the end of it, when it's mentioned that it could just be all a hoax engineered by Haddon, it's almost like Occam's razor, right? Like, what's the simplest explanation? That Vegans actually contacted us, this extraordinary claim, and, she has no evidence to show her trip to meet the aliens. It seems like the simplest answer is that it was all like kind of like a hoax from Haddon as his last dying way out to just sort of, manipulate or whatever all, humanity. So it's interesting that like one could say that's how they think the movie ended. And then, it's just, I don't know. There's something about that I never really got watching this movie when I was younger until here recently watching it. And it made me think about it. I'm like, oh, well, this is kind of set up to where like, sort of fan fiction can really have some good arguments for like, that's actually what happened here,
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think the movie does a good way of like kind of putting it in doubt and then no, it happened, or putting it back in doubt. But the nail in the coffin for me is Angela Bassett at the end, and it's like I don't want to talk about it now. I want to wait till we get to it because that's a very interesting scene and I'm curious what your thoughts are on it. But this is an important revelation as well when they're sitting there and they, hey, this is what came out. Their schematics. And this, I gotta admit, like I agree with what a lot of these people are saying. They're like, what if this is like a bomb? Like, what if this is something we bring the whole vegan army here and they obliterate us? Like what, why would we build this thing? It is an interesting question that it's like, you don't know these people and you don't trust people you don't know. Like you're putting a lot of faith, you're putting a lot of trust in a group of people, not even people, a group of beings that you've never even met or seen or heard from before. Like it's kind of interesting. Like sometimes I wonder, would this machine actually fucking get built? Would somebody actually build this? It's like, I don't know. I think that this is one of the more biggest leaps of the movie you have to make is, would the government, even world government, sponsor building this thing? Like, I don't know. I think that's a little bit, I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that sometimes.
Same.
But obviously, fucking, you got to build that shit. I think that it would be a little bit more interesting if it were like a bunch of the world's companies got together and are like, we're building this shit. Like, fuck you. Like Amazon and Walmart and like all these companies got together and just said, fuck government interference. We're going to build this shit on our own. Like, if this happened today, Elon Musk would be like, we're building this fucking thing. We're taking this bitch out.
Private companies would invest at the very least without government help. I think if it was something that big, right? Like if we were like for sure getting these like alien messages and it was just like confirmed this is definitely not from our solar system, I feel like the Elon Musk or private companies and stuff would absolutely go through with it. Maybe not get as much government support, but I feel like maybe in that sense eventually the world governments would have no choice but to get in on it, because they couldn't just not if private companies followed through with it, because it could be too much of a threat to national security, and they there's no telling what the government knows and has technologies anyways too. So they would want as much eventually, maybe not. I think you're right. I think right off the get-go, no. But I think if private companies started doing it and funding it, eventually these governments would have no choice but to get in on it. And so Palmer just comes into this meeting, right? Like they haven't seen each other for like 4 years. So the last meeting was like in the bed with the note. Mm-hmm. And this is like you were saying earlier, it's like, why is he wrote a book, but he's like the advisor.
Yeah. What the fuck are you doing here? Like, I don't understand. Like everybody else in this room, it's like you have like generals, you have doctors, like you're sitting across from the head of national security. You're sitting across from the leader, or like the president, the guy who's in charge of in charge of the Science Foundation. Like, why the fuck, and even Rob Lowe is kind of like, okay, that guy's part of like a conservative coalition. I think that I understand, but Palmer Joss is like, it's like, he's like a fucking magician. Like, what are you doing in here, man? Like, don't understand like this weird, like, hey, we're just gonna take off. I say we all take off our socks and shoes and just kind of walk around barefoot, kind of, ease the vibe. Yeah, I could see him just like burning incense over there, like putting on a lava lamp. But this is a great exchange between Jodie Foster and Rob Lowe. And again, Palmer Joss, I can understand being here, but Rob Lowe, now that I'm thinking about it, is like, why the fuck is this guy here? What does this have to do with what, I personally, me, I'm not a religious person. And I'm like, I'm sorry, why is this person here? And I'm like, I don't understand this. Like, are we talking about science here? Like, I don't get that, nothing against, whatever you want to believe. But it's like, when it came down to this, like, this is a purely scientific matter and it does have religious implications. But, it's not like we're not going to pray how to figure out how to build this thing. Like, we got the schematics right here. And she says so as much. She's like, she was like, this thing was sent to us in the language of science. Now, if it had been religious in nature, it should have taken on the form of a burning bush or a big voice from the sky. And I was like, God damn it, that's so good. Like, but I love her reaction, though, when he pops up and they start talking and she's like, son of a fucking bitch, like, I'd love if she stood up and her belly was like real big, and she was pregnant and they're like, oh, fuck. Like, he's like, I gotta go, guys. But the whole thing, I do like where he's kind of talking about them, but not directly. He's like, I hope we can find a common ground, get over any kind of obstacles that might have put us together or, taken us apart. And he says, hey, let's not be fucking alarmist. Let's not take an alarmist position to this, but Rob Lowe just, I will not be, placated with flowering new age rhetoric. And then the president walks in, which is funny. It's like everybody stands up first, but her. And she's like, oh, hey, fuck. Sorry. I was looking at Matthew McConaughey's bulge. Like, I'm sorry. I fucking forgot the president was in the room. But this is the same shit that they do in Forrest Gump as well. They kind of like add him in. You can tell now it doesn't hang in as well, but it's believable. And I like Drumlin. He's like, if you're telling me what this machine does, I have no idea. We may never even find out. I fucking love that. Like, that is kind of how I would be if like, this might be nothing, it's like we may never be able to activate this thing either. We may build it and not have the technology and be like, oh, sure. You guys have like, high octane fusion moleculoid, right? Like, no, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, we don't have that shit. But we get kind of like this reunion. I like this here, that she, the president's waiting, it's kind of like a little bit of a meet cute again. But he says, I'll see you at the whatever the fucking party tonight. And I do really like her pulling Angela Bassett, like, where do you get a really great dress? It's like, cool. It's a bit of a humanizing moment just because it's been so, science thinking. And it's kind of like you want this moment of like, but at the same time, she is a human being with like human desires. I like that. I like that part. It's a very humanizing scene. But
yeah, and
let me see here.
This is where we would,
go ahead.
Yeah, this is where we would get into the dinner party where they kind of get into the question of like, do you believe in God or not? And he drops the big thing that will prove to me that you love your father. Again, like I said earlier, as if that's just some end all argument for the existence of the Christian God. You know what I mean? Like she just finished talking about Occam's razor. So at that moment, it would have been a good time for her to reiterate that concept and just say, hey, well, I mean, like, what is the simplest explanation here? That like all religions and cultures are wrong, and they were just the Christian God geographically purposely engineered them to be at the wrong location where they didn't get the Christian doctrine, so they were just doomed for eternity. Or were these just like ancient failed sciences essentially where you're trying to understand the natural world? Instead, it just cuts at like they'll like I think that's where this movie kind of gets a little dated. I feel like if this movie were to be made now, we would have a little bit more continuum of the conversation, and it wouldn't be so I don't know. I don't know if juvenile is the right word. Because there's a little bit of
it kind of does. It kind of does feel a way of like, I know you are, but what am I? And like it does kind of feel this like, you love me, prove it. Throw yourself off this bridge. It's like, well, I don't quite understand what's going on here. Like exactly like what you said. How the fuck do these two things correlate? Like I don't understand why the existence of God is dependent upon how she loved her dad or not. And it's like I can't prove that I like orange soda, but I know I fucking love orange soda. It's like, I don't know. That's such an abstract thing to try and quantify. And you could maybe say that same thing for like any kind of like creator entity, But at the same time, it's like there needs to be a paper trail. It's like there needs to be something where it's not just infinite regress, where we figure out exactly where the buck stops, for sure. And I think that's interesting what you said. It does feel juvenile. It does feel kind of like, prove it, prove it, big shot. It's like, well, you can't really quantify that. But I say, you know what, we're about at the halfway mark. Why don't we just use the restrooms, grab something to drink, take a break? You down for that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, word. Guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the second half of our coverage of Contact. Hey guys, what's going on? Colin jumping in here in the middle. Just kind of let you know some stuff that's going on at Midnight Double Feature. First off, please stop by and rate and review us on iTunes. Let us know how we're doing. It helps out so much. It takes 5 seconds and it's free. So there you go. We would really, really appreciate it. Also, you can find us on our socials. We're on Facebook at Midnight Double Feature. We're on Instagram at Midnight Double Feature. We're on Twitter at MDF Pod. Please also join the group that we have attached to our Facebook page. It's called the After Party. Everybody's invited. That group has been really expanding and we're really excited to see where it's going. We can also find our website, midnightdoublefeature.com. We got our merch there. If you want to know something, you want to find us on our socials, you want to see what all's going on, that's kind of like our main hub. That's really where to find it if you want it. We also have a podcast for Breaking Bad that we have going on. It's called Bad Crystal. It's an interesting show where I actually haven't seen any of the episodes of Breaking Bad. Zoheb has seen it like 15 times, and he's kind of leading me through it. I'm experiencing it for the first time with a veteran, and it's an interesting dynamic, and it's a lot of fun. And lastly, if you really, really, really want to support the show and really put all your cards on the table, we do have a Patreon. That's patreon.com/midnightdoublefeature. It's $5 a month. There's only one tier. You get all access to everything that we've got going on. We've got bonus episodes. We've got off the rails kind of stuff. Got a lot of stuff that's not going to make it to the main page, and there's a lot more geared for Patreon kind of stuff. So we really hope to see you guys over there. Like I said, plans start at $5 a month and end at $5 a month. That's the only one that we've got going on. We really, really hope that you guys can join up there, and we will hope to see you soon. See you guys later. Bye-bye. Welcome back to the second half of Contact here at Midnight Double Feature. Jumping right back in pretty much where we left off. We are freshly squeezed, as Zoheb always likes to say. And this is where we see she's gotten this fantastic dress. I love this is like such a 90s like kind of look, but it's an awesome 90s look. It just feels like it's from like her outfit is from like a 90s alternative rock video. There's something about it that's just so fucking 90s. But I like this kind of little back and forth where she's read his book and she's quoting him and stuff like that. Like, again, it's a nice moment of just kind of calm when all of this like world, changing shit has been going on. Here's this like nice, not overly, like Family Guy does it really well, where they're like, it's like the woman who's like, I have a business meeting after business, and I have a meeting and a lunch meeting and a business, and all this shit. And the guy's like, I'm going to show you for the next 90 minutes how my penis will solve all of your problems. It's like, that's how I feel about romantic comedy. It's like, this is so stupid, but this is not, it's a nice kind of, it's realistic to a degree, it's kind of nice seeing two people that are on total different ends of the spectrum still respect each other and still get along too, I do enjoy that. That it's actually somebody in her own field who's kind of the antagonist, that's interesting.
Yeah. And one thing you said too, going back to, we were talking about how long this movie is, but as we've been talking about it, I've kind of realized it's paced really well for being as long as it is, because we just had that moment of like, hey, we're taking the audience out of all this intensity. We're just going to have like a nice moment. And, just going back to how they build up to, hearing the signal, kind of the Twister kind of vibes. I really do appreciate how this movie was like edited and to have it feel and be paced the way that it is. I really like that about it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And there's a lot of There's just been so much going on, and it's just so like, holy shit, just this constant chug, that I really love this moment. Not so much like you said for the whole, like, you better prove to me that you love your dad. It's like, that's kind of fucked up. Like, you shouldn't do that. Like, that's not cool. But of course, they end up getting a mess. They end up getting I guess kind of notified. Somebody's leaked out that this is definitely a transport. I like the fact that that's kind of ambiguous. They're just like, I think they say something like, if I find out who did this, I'm like, oh, cool. They, fuck it. Who cares? It doesn't matter. We just need it because movie. I was like, cool. I dig that. But I love the shot of her being outside, sitting in the chair, and there's just that one guy on the other side. And it's like, just the kind of like symbolism of like an open door and a guy standing in front of it. Like, there's just this constant uphill, like, kind of battle that she's got between Drumlin and then also with Joss, I keep wanting to say Joss Whedon. I swear to God, I keep wanting to say Joss Whedon. But basically they say, hey, we're doing a committee. We've got a bunch of different people. Well, don't let, Drumlin monopolize the committee. And he's like, he's not on the committee. He wants to go. Like, fuck, man. It is such like a bomb, like villainy kind of moment. It's like, damn, just when it's not something that I thought, a direction that I thought they would have gone. I think it might just be his age. It's like, man, I'm not trying to say like, oh, you're too fucking old, but like, if I were that age, I'd be afraid of going. I think I'd have, like a heart attack or something. You know what I mean? Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Like, they don't know. Like, you're going to fall through this thing, or you're going to be, did you speed off at the speed of light? And how's that going to work on your body?
Right. Yeah. Dude, and just Tom Skerritt plays this really nice kind of in between. What I've said before is just this kind of, he's not this pencil twirling, shouting and yelling at people, but just this very subtle kind of villainy that's going on that I really enjoy. But like he says, she's at the top of a very short list. They've decided to take this thing international to kind of, help kind of levy the cost. Japan's not sending anybody. They're getting like trademarks on it or something like that. It's all kind of interesting how that all comes together. And also seeing Brian Gumble, where he's talking with Ellie and he's like, there's every indication that this is simply beyond our capabilities, that this endeavor will fail, and that the machine's occupant will pay for that failure with their life. It's like, fuck, that is a thought. Like, that is a very thought provoking thing. And what it's interesting about this movie is that, the science stuff, it's cool. And I like seeing her travel and go, you see like the different planets and stuff like that. Like, that's cool. But it's also like the sociological ramifications of this event is what's interesting to me. Like, I could almost see like a fake documentary that somebody made about like the day that this happened and shit. And you feel, just because there's so much, like, you see so many people on TV, you see CNN Live all the time. You see all these people that it's there. You can say a lot of things about this movie, but for sure, it's got amazing world building. It is so
right,
such a world that makes me believe.
Yeah, and that goes back to one of Carl Sagan's most famous sentiments, and that is we are one planet. And I really like how the director and the writers of the script sort of stayed true to that Sagan message, to really just globify, if that's even a word, as a connection, as a one species, as a one planet. That's really amazing that they got that in here, especially it being a Sagan novel, which I think they kind of had those big shoes to fill, because Sagan, he was really, really well educated. I mean, he had a lot of knowledge in philosophy, sociology, astronomy, all of the sciences. I mean, he was a really, really smart guy, and also he was a really good communicator. He was the creator of the first Cosmos, which I love that series. Oh my gosh, one of my favorite things to watch. Just so like elegant and academic, very, very good. So yeah, I like seeing how they do a good job at just connecting this movie to like our world, and it feels very, very realistic watching it. That's one thing I really appreciate about it.
Hell yeah, dude. I definitely, it definitely comes across, when you listen to Carl Sagan interviews, and there's like people that would call in on the radio and start talking to him, and he would kind of, he's like, well, hold on here. Like, you were on one point, now you're running to the other one. He's like, so let's just solve this one point. And they hang up on him. And it's like, he's a very thoughtful guy in the way that he speaks. He's very clear and interesting. And I definitely see why he's very charismatic, But I like, again, world building. We get this guy, John Russell's dropping out. His kids don't want him to go. Which would, your kids would be fucking like senior citizens when you come back. Like, man, I don't think I could do that. Like if I didn't have kids, that'd be one thing. If I wasn't married and didn't have kids, whatever. But man, not coming back and your kids are like, might be dead. Like, I don't know if I could handle that,
Yeah, because they're having that like conversation about like the relativity of the time issue. Where Matthew McConaughey is like, when you come back, everyone that you've ever known is gone.
Right.
It's a terrible Matthew McConaughey impression. But I like the obelisk, the Capitol. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I don't know what that's called. But I really like the shot in Washington. Really, really cool shot.
I like this, and I like her kind of like, isn't this against the rules? Selector and selectees, but like she's really charming, and just kind of having a laugh at how serious kind of all of this is. I really enjoy it. But the thing I really like is when he's like, so when you come back, you mean if I come back? And it's like, if you come back, like, oh man, that's such a great beat. He just holds it for like such a perfect moment and comes back at it. But again, this is nice. The fact that there's really nobody in Ellie's life who's like, please don't go, and I will say, like, I have problems with the character, but I like that there is somebody who would care if she was gone. I think that's one interesting thing, that why she might be so propelled into doing this is like, well, who here is really gonna, be upset that I'm gone? That's kind of an interesting thing I haven't really thought about, just because she's such a loner. It definitely adds a lot more to her character. But I like that they're, this whole kind of cross-examination about, of the shit of how, what exactly you would do. Again, the real world kind of ramifications. This does get a little tiresome. Like, there's a lot of like, well, we're a committee who's meeting on a meeting and we're doing some, it's all very kind of like official feeling a lot. But that's, again, it's one thing I will say about this movie. It's very bureaucratic. It's very, very, very detailed, and very, they don't really leave a lot of details out. And it just seems so, this is the heaps and heaps of shit that would happen. But fuck Matthew McConaughey, man, because he sets her up for a fail. He knows what the fuck she's going to say. And it's like, man, who cares if she doesn't believe in whatever you believe in? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, what does that matter to this alien? Like, it's so, again, not a very religious person. So this whole thing is just like shockingly stupid to me. But at the same time, I get why it's there. We need that kind of conflict there.
Yeah. I mean, it's also realistic too, because in that position, also Carl Sagan was very famously quoted for saying, "Who speaks for Earth?" When they were sending Voyager with the gold record of the sounds of Earth and all those things, like he was really well known for raising the question, who speaks for Earth? And I think that goes back to why this movie is so bureaucratic, because you're that's the question, right? Like, who speaks for Earth? You want someone that represents the majority. So if the majority are believers of the Christian God, well, asking this question, like you said, he's totally setting her up for failure, which is just like a really shitty thing. But it does add conflict in the movie. It kind of keeps you engaged, and you're kind of satisfying the religious audience, and then you're provoking the non-believers too that would be watching this. So I think. It's a really and the audio engineering nerd in me, he's speaking into a Shure SM57 when he asked her the question, which is
fucking mic nerd,
which is the official microphone for the president of the United States.
That's fucking awesome. I did not even catch it. I knew if anybody would have caught that, that definitely would have been you. But and yeah, like, not only does he set her up for the fall, but then here's Drumlin coming in with the, picking up the fumble and saying like, "Oh God, I love God. God, oh yeah, of course. Oh, it's it's so ridiculous just because he's saying exactly what they want.
Exactly,
and it's
exactly, and he knows
it's not anything. Yeah, and it's not anything shocking, but at the same time, it is kind of like, a fucking course he does. Like, I gotta admit, I'd probably be like, yeah, sure, love God, great guy, like I just want to go to space. But he straight up says, I just in good conscience couldn't vote for a person who doesn't believe in God. Like, it's also, is it that, or do you want her to stay? Are you spiking this so that she has to stay and she can't go?
The love interest. Yeah. He's maybe like subconsciously he's doing everything he can to kind of keep her here, be possessive. Because, the scene before when it's like the selectee and the selector, I mean, it was really good acting, and they had that moment, they kissed, they really like had that vulnerability of the gravity of what she's about to do. So he knows he could lose her. And that may have been part of why he would, just put such a, like, because they were done, right? Like, he didn't even have to ask. He just like, wait, I have one more question,
Right. Well, then, and you're not only, that what her answer is going to be, but publicly doing this is also giving somebody else an opportunity to, it's not enough that you couldn't just vote no. You wanted everybody else to vote no based on this. And I think that that's for reasons that are not just having to do with somebody who's believing in God or not, because what's interesting is in the next scene, she gives him that compass back. And that's a sign that, like, dude, she really felt something about you to continue to hold on to this thing. Maybe something didn't happen right when you guys met, but she's had this thing, and that's kind of interesting, is when she gives it back to him, I think you can kind of see where he's like, oh, fuck. Oh, man, that is not all right. God dang. But the thing, I think that's a really touching moment, because, I mean, not only is her, her eyes are watering and stuff, but at the same time, it's just this, again, it's a great moment of vulnerability from this, like, these moments are kind of few and far between, but they happen. They set her up to be a very like, not stoic character, but, kind of introspective at the beginning. And as the movie goes on, she's like, they should have sent a poet. Like, that's an amazing line. Like, what an incredible, like, way to look at it. But we finally see them building the International Machine Consortium, which is, there are so many, there's a patch that I want that's got that, and you can put it on like a jacket, and it's got the IMC thing on the side. And it's like, there's so many badass t-shirts for, this whole logo and stuff like that. But again, we're seeing the whole kind of setup of this, of them using the dummy, and he and Airway kind of talk. And I like the fact that there is they do at least have like one kind of final, like, conversation face to face, because he's about to get fucking blown to bits, which is kind of, it's interesting. I think it's interesting seeing them when both of them know what the fuck is going on, and the fact that they're not really, he's like, glad you could come, didn't expect to see you here. And it's like, well, what, dude, you're coming off of this like totally antagonistic asshole, and it's I don't want to say like seeing him get blown up is like, yes, but there is kind of like this, like, well, I mean, yeah, the machine's gone, but I'm just saying, and just, he tries to justify a lot of stuff, when he's talking to her. He's like, I know you think it's unfair, and, what you don't know is I agree. I wish the world was a place for blah, 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 blah. So he's kind of like pandering to her as well, just to be like, hey, listen, like, yeah, this is fucked up, but at the same time, I got to do what I got to do, Unfortunately, we don't live in that world. I'm like, okay. Yeah,
oh my God. Yeah. I kind of hate, like, it just brings out just strong feelings in me of like this situation of like, oh God, because if you were her, and like dealing with somebody like that. And I think I really like this about this movie, that they would make it so realistic. The dialogue, to me, it's just super realistic, and I really like that. And I also, the transport, the way that it looks back in the background and like how it functions, that's so cool. So cool. I love how they made it look.
I love the way that looks. And then, seeing Drumlin kind of running around, and they're, hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting ready to start up, blah, blah. And it's like, just this like hubbub of like activity, and it's just this static kind of like electric, a feeling in the air of just like some, it feels like Doc Brown. He's like, when this thing hits 88 miles an hour, you're going to see some serious shit. It's like, that's kind of the feeling of this like electric, like, oh man, let's fucking go. But like we've brought up with Jake Busey before, and everything looks beautiful too. When he's up in there and he's looking down and you see the rings moving all the way at the bottom, it's like, Ooh, that's fucking
I think
intense, man.
Yeah, and I think the CGI, however they did this, holds up really, really well.
It does.
You know?
Yeah. Like like some parts, you know, when it's close up on it, you see it falling apart, like not so much, but you see this thing from far away so much, especially the first time. There's a lot of shots on the beach. There's a lot of shots like above people and stuff like that. So I think that's really cool. They do a good job also too of not showing it too much at the beginning, because we're going to see a lot of it here soon with her trip. We're going to be a lot more close up on it. So we kind of want to show the outside of this thing. But you know, of course, you know, she ends up seeing Jake Busey. Everybody goes plow, everybody gets bloat up real good. And dude, just the tragic when you see the arm fall and I remember watching the first time going, oh my God. Like, again, not as a religious person, a person who has like some problems with, you know, major religions. I'm like, of course it's some fucking guy, some crazy person, you know, like, God damn it. You know, like assholes ruin great things. You know, it's kind of heartbreaking the first time you see it. It's like,
oh man, the scene where he actually does push the button, the way the camera, it's like it's moving like it's someone's like body cam. It's just crazy. That scene really, really hits hard for sure. I think they did a good job shooting this whole sequence. You know, that build up to the explosion. You know, he's got something in his hand, and she's like zooming in with the camera. It's super intense, and like his face, Busey, like, oh my God, like that character's so creepy. He played that so well.
Dude, when they tackle him on the ground, right when he hits the button, he looks like Schwarzenegger in Total Recall, like he's got that like kind of crazy look. But this is kind of like the all is lost moment in our story. You know, it seems like, you know, what's going to happen now? How are we going to come back from this? And of course, you know, again, right when things hit a low point, here comes Haddon to spike the ball back up. Here comes Haddon to keep this thing going. And it's very interesting now that you know what's kind of going on at the beginning. People think he's faking all of this shit. Like that's really a cool thing you can appreciate on retroactive viewings, I think, like later on watching it. But he's in space now. He's hoping that it'll help, you know, kind of fight off his cancer and stuff. But just the whole kind of thrilling aspect of him, you know, it's on I can't even pronounce it, like Hokkaido Island, I think. I'm probably butchering that. But just the overhead shot when they zoom in, it's just like, motherfucker, dude. Like, and it looks so cool. I love the way that it looks all zoomed in. I've always liked it every time I've seen it. Like, that is a really cool, like, rendering of that. Why have two why have one when you can pay two at twice the price? Twice the price. Built in Japan, controlled by Americans, built by Japanese subcontractors who also happen to be recently acquired by Haddon Industries.
Oh, like, great dialogue! Great, that was so good at just like moving the story forward, making it believable, like saying, you know, exactly what needs to be said to kind of, you know, convince you. All right, here we go. Like, this is the justification for why we have another vessel. But I do get Metal Gear Solid 2 vibes. The beginning cutscene of the game Metal Gear Solid 2 with the being on the ship with all the rain. You know, if you've ever played that game, you might feel it.
Dude, I do, you know, the want to take a ride, like, it's kind of goofy, but when he's like, they still want an American to go, I'm like, oh, like, I have worked on John Hurt impressions for, like, it's kind of like when you do a bit of Richard Dawkins, but then you bring it down and kind of put this twang on it. Like, he's got a very distinctive way of speaking, but I still get goosebumps, though. It's kind of corny, but I love the want to take a ride. It's like, oh, yeah, it's like, let's fucking go, man. Like, I'm so sold at the movie at this point that it's like, you know, you could see watching this and being like, is that the end of the movie? Really? Everything gets blown up and they can't do it again? It's like, but here's this moment of like, oh, here we are. But then going over everything, you know, her headset, her microphone, they give her the cyanide pill. What's interesting too is, you know, apparently that's like a myth. I'm like, hell no, they probably give them fucking cyanide. But the thing of them, the chair, that we have, he's like, minimal protection, minimal. Like, we have to have something here to protect you. And it's really interesting because later on, what's the first thing that goes wrong on that thing? The fucking chair snaps off and slams into the ceiling. And it's like, yeah, that's not supposed to be here. You know, she even said something about it like, hey, like, there's not any kind of schematic in here for a chair. Like, what the fuck is this doing here? And that is kind of crazy to where, like, this thing probably has to be built to such specific, you know, specifications that I wouldn't fucking, no, we're going to have like a ashtray over here and put like, like we're going to put some subwoofers. Right. We're going to put some subwoofers in the back. And, but I do love, it's such a small thing of them giving her the cyanide. I just really enjoy it just because it's so like, you know, what did she say? It's like, I'm going to travel all this way to commit suicide. There may be an unforeseen, you know, circumstances. You may be removed, you know, marooned, unable to return. There are 1,000 reasons for which we have to give this to you, but mostly it's for reasons we can't think of. Like, fuck, that is ominous, dude. That is so fucking ominous, and I love the line. But man, here we are. It's fucking time. You know, it's time to get ready. It's gearing up again. But of course, we get a little bit more Palmer Joss. You know, I know you don't have enough time. As soon as I found out about the machine, I called the president, blah, blah, blah. So, and he does tell us also, like, Michael Kitts is here. Like, seems like everybody's here. But it's a bittersweet kind of moment. But it's like, you know, she's got to go. But man, come on. Like, you feel for the guy. But at the same time, it's like, this is what her whole life has been leading to. Like, this is, you can't ask somebody like, I can't give that up for some dick, you know, like I gotta, you know, I can't, I would be like, yeah, I don't think I can really do that.
Speaking of, like, he just shows up in her little quarters. I guess she's on a ship, maybe. Matthew McConaughey, you know, he comes in, they have one, he gives her the compass back.
Right. Which I really like, but it's like, why is this guy here? How did he get clearance? Like, I don't understand that. But I like the fact there's no press. The whole world is stunned by the existence of a second machine and its passenger Eleanorian Airway. This whole thing's badass. You know, we can just take this in a big chunk of her getting on board the vessel and being locked in and shit, like her armor. And it's very like Renaissance kind of like Joan of Arc. You know, she looks like she's going to battle in this armor. It looks like light kind of like chainmail, you know, or you know, plated armor. Like it's this very interesting kind of look. And the thing it feels like somebody being led to their death by executioners. You know, it feels like the two guards behind her leading like John Coffey to the electric chair in Green Mile. You know, it's this very ominous kind of being pushed towards a situation you don't know how it's going to end. And that's terrifying to thought of, just like, you could be marching straight into your death, you know, like that's like I'd be too afraid I'd do this and have like a heart attack or a seizure or something and just like get too, oh my God, like my mind would get blown too hard and I would just like fucking have an aneurysm, you know, like I'd be too terrified. Like, I watched video of it, but I don't think I'd be the first. I don't think I'd be the first one to go.
Oh man. Yeah. Strapped in like that. You feel the vibration of the machine. You have no idea what's going to happen. Yeah, I'd probably have an anxiety attack or sort of like a panic attack. Like, ah.
Well, she ends up getting locked in. You know, this honestly, this scene really takes a minute because we've got they're about to abort it and and everything's flying. And I love the fact that Kent's there, and I think he kind of talks to her for a minute. He's like, hey, how you doing? You know, and they get a last moment to talk, which is cool. Cause I love William Fichtner's character in this. I really appreciate the fact that he's in this from dusk till dawn. He's in the whole thing. But as the machine starts to go and, you know, the whole dude, when the machine starts spinning and it releases that like, and just that force is like, holy shit. And it starts pulling, if you watch the machine when it's going, when it pulls the boat in, it's pulling the clouds in the sky towards it. And you're like, fuck, that is insane and like beautiful and terrifying. Like, just this scene, just this machine, you have no idea what the fuck this thing can do, and it's manipulating like the elements in front of you like nothing. Like, you just turn this bitch on and this is what it did. Like, wow, that's fucking insane. But this whole, I mean, what did you think the first time you saw this and you were like, wow, like we're actually getting there now, you know? The whole reason we're here has started, you know?
Yeah, like the payoff and like, okay, we're about to see like the whole time. I mean, this is at the hour and 50-minute mark. You know, it's been such a good build. You know, it's just like, you're ready. Where are we going? the visuals of being able to see through the floor, like the holographic like shimmer thing, that's really cool. And then I love how they have the rockets that propel the
me
spin,
too. I love that.
And how they show it, because it's like it's just so cool how this thing is designed. You can tell they put a lot of like scientific accuracy and physics. How, okay, if we were actually going to build something like this, say, what would it be like? And I'm pretty sure Carl Sagan consulted a bunch of his colleagues, like physicists and sociologists, say, and all this stuff to kind of get ideas to be as scientifically accurate as he could be. So I'm glad to see a lot of those scientific accuracies still in it, even though it's not, Carl Sagan directing it, but that same spirit is still in there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I think, was it Ken Thorpe? I think he was consultant on like this and like Interstellar. I think he's like a black hole, or like a wormhole expert. I know I've heard his name like tossed around a lot.
Yeah, Ken Thorpe.
Ken Thorpe. We went and saw Neil deGrasse Tyson at TPAC a few years ago. And actually, Chris, he helped me like move into that apartment, going up and down 3 flights of stairs for like 10 hours. And I was like, dude, I'm taking you to go see Carl Sagan tomorrow. So we went and saw it at TPAC, and it was awesome. And he was actually talking about watching this movie in the 90s. And he was there with like Ken Thorpe, and he was like, man, they're fucking this all up. This is not how this works, and this is not cool. And Ken Thorpe was like, Jesus Christ, Neil, it's just a movie. It's like, calm down, dude. It's just like, he was just so anal about that. But this trip, I don't want to take the whole thing, because there's just so much that goes on. But the little moments of like when she stops there for a minute and she sees Vega and she looks up and there's that monolithic fucking machine thing like above her. And I was like, that is terrifying. Like that kind of shit scares the hell out of me, of just this like massive scale thing out in space, just this kind of like Leviathan of space. Like that's like Cthulhu, and like that, God, that scares the hell out of me. And it's so ominous, but at the same time, I love the way that they show that little glimpse of like, is that a ship? Like, is that is that like a base? Like, what is that? But they also, as she's traveling, the little things that pop out of her, she has like those weird little side heads.
Yeah, I love that.
Come on. I do too, but what's interesting is one of them goes, I'm alive. And I was like, why is it doing that? And I was like, oh, this is the shit that she's going to say in about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And she stopped and she's like, oh, I'm alive. And I was like, oh, shit. Okay. I literally never caught that until probably 2 or 3 watches ago. And
Same.
I was like, oh, shit.
Same.
I never really got that.
Yeah. I noticed that watching it just before this podcast. And that was one of the main things that stood out to me. It's funny you brought that up. Because I really noticed that too, and I thought that was cool because she does say it later, and it's just like, oh yeah, we're bending space and time. Another cool little like indication in there like that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And of course, as it's going on, she's rocketing at the speed of God knows what. What's interesting about this is she sees the compass, she detaches from the chair, she gets the compass. What's interesting is it's the compass that saves her life, which is really interesting, but there's something kind of symbolic about the chair where it's like when you look at it, it's just this angry, like, just this like uncontrollable, spasmic kind of thing. And when I'm looking at this, it's like you literally see her caught between like faith and like the compass, that the compass will get you home, and the science that's behind you. And there's something kind of interesting about leaving, like at this moment, she's just been this kind of like, not cold, but kind of very clinical scientific person. And now she's like, she's risking, whatever can happen to her by leaving this chair and actually going for this thing. And I love that. I love the fact that it's, that it's what draws her in. And then the chair just goes straight to the fucking ceiling. Like, fuck, I'm glad you got out of that shit. I love that. I think that's really, there's a lot of symbolism there about her leaving the chair behind and reaching for the compass. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost as if, it's kind of her, Palmer, his spiritual side, kind of, leaning you towards like there's still relevancy and you should still be sympathetic towards that, the spiritual side of humanity, So I like that, they don't just bash it. There's a lot of respect still shown.
Well, she has faith. She has faith in going after the compass. And I think that's what's interesting is like, seeing her almost kind of like, get off mission of like, I'm not supposed to get out of this chair, of almost jeopardizing just on faith. I think that's really, really cool. But she, she wakes. I like this whole thing of her seeing the quadruple system. She sees that city, and I was like, oh fuck, that's cool. I was like, that's such a small little hint of like what is down there, and I really, really, really enjoy that. But she ends up seeing the system. Oh, it's so beautiful, words couldn't describe. They should have sent a poet. It's that really, really a genuine reaction to something like that, of something that's maybe not even, that most people would never see in their lifetime ever. It's like, and what exactly is this thing, and how can you describe it? It makes me think it's one of the early Family Guy episodes when the world ends and they go to the Twinkie factory. Do you remember that? Have you ever seen that episode?
Oh no, I haven't seen that episode.
They go to the Twinkie factory and they open up the door and it's full of Twinkies, and Peter's like, so beautiful, they should have sent a poet. And like he starts reciting fucking Contact. I was like, that's hilarious. But of course the beach, we're really kind of winding down to the last bits of this movie, but it ends up being the beach on Pensacola, the picture she drew as a kid. And her dad comes out, and again, at first this kind of threw me off a little bit when I was younger, and I was like, I don't know, but now I definitely dig it a lot more, especially when they're kind of talking back and forth and they both have the same ring on, and it's like, oh, that's awesome. I love that moment where you realize she's been wearing her dad's blue ring like the whole movie, and they both have it on, like when they're talking. It's like, oh, that is so awesome. It feels like just like this bridge between two worlds. And I like the. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I really like the lighting on the beach. How it's like starlight, moonlight. There's no like actual direct sun or a star super close up. It just has this dream-like feel, or it seems to be lit up mostly by like a galaxy that you can see. Maybe that's the Milky Way galaxy is kind of what they're going with that. But anyway, I love the visuals of this scene. Just the lighting. It's very dreamlike. And I think,
yeah, I like that.
I think it's cool how they, okay, so there's been all this like build up, and then finally we get to get in this ship, and where are we going? Who are we going to see? How do you show the audience, an alien and make it like good? And sometimes, it's what you don't show, you might say. And I think it's really neat how they use her dad. And, the idea is that, you as a race aren't quite ready for the, intense gravity of this situation, to find out there's other intelligent life, perhaps even more intelligent than humans out there. You would imagine that if they're that intelligent, maybe they have some higher ethical standards of like, when we come to a new species that's just coming into it being a galactical species, say, we want to do it slowly. That may be a realistic way of, if there if there are intelligent species out there, they might want to ease us in baby steps. And I think how they use her dad and everything, I think it's really timeless. I think it's really tasteful. It's not like the Arrival where you have these weird tentacle things that kind of like, takes you out of the movie. So I do appreciate it for that. I think it pretty much nails it. But I do see how people would be irritated or like let down. I can also see that too, like really her dad, like what, they were expecting probably something a little bit, more alien, say.
Right. Yeah. And I honestly, when he first walked out and he was just a kind of shimmering thing, I was like, I'm cool with that. I'm cool if they're like, hey, this is what we look like to you because you can't perceive like what we look like. Like we're just this like kind of shady blob with color that you can't really, your eye can't comprehend it. But I like all this where she's like, immediately she's like, you're not my dad. You just, I think she says you scanned me on the ship. And he's like, we just thought this would be better. Just we don't want to drop all this shit on you. And right away, she's like, why did you contact us? He's like, you contacted us. We just answered back. And she's like, are there others? He's like, many others, many, many others. And it's things, he doesn't go too far into detail either. When she asks stuff, he just gives very simple, who built the transit system? We didn't build it. They were gone. We don't know who did, but they were gone by the time we got here. Like, fuck, that's really cool. The fact that these people were in the same position as people on Earth were and became a part of this, thing. And it does kind of like, you got to think if they've got this massive transport system they probably got, infinite, land, infinite food. Like they probably have some kind of crazy, everybody lives in like a perfect utopia. There's no war, there's no jobs, like people don't have to do anything. So it's like to drop all of that onto your world would be like people just start killing themselves, like people just start jumping off bridges and shit and going crazy. But I like this. He's like, you're an interesting mix. You're capable of such beautiful dreams and such, horrible nightmares. And I like that. The fact that he's kind of like, you feel so lost, but really you're not, and he's kind of indirectly talking about her as well. You think you're so alone and you're not. It really kind of helps wrap up her arc, along with kind of where a very brief summary of like kind of like what the Earth is like you guys are capable of great things, but also horrible things. It's interesting.
It kind of throws me off when he is like, you have your mother's hands. It's kind of like, okay, so is this why are you saying on to me? Yeah, like what are you just trying to like carry on the comfort level, like we just want you to feel like this is your dad, and or we just want to make you feel comfortable. And maybe they just don't. Maybe they just say that, in that sense, and it's not about context. But it was a little creepy when I heard that. Like, what? So what? Is it her dad? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why would you say that? I don't know. It's kind of
it is kind of funny, but she says, hey, when we come back, this is just a first step. Small moves. This is the way it's been done for billions of years. Yada yada. But I like the fact that, again, it's so great, just her getting this moment of finally getting really to say goodbye, and feeling partly responsible for his death. I should have kept the pills closer. And it's like to see him again, and also not only in seeing him, it's also the climax of probably your life. It's like this is the greatest thing you'll ever be a part of, most likely, except for whatever smaller personal thing.
To get that closure.
Right. And your dad was there when you accomplished one of the greatest things in all of humanity. Like that's brilliant. That is what's really nice. That's why I appreciate a little bit as I'm older, but it's I think also it's like, yeah, you get closure with your dad. They don't really talk about like, it's not your fault. You didn't keep the pills closer. It's like, they don't get like that. But I like the fact that it's like, my father was here to see me at my peak, at my, at the thing I will always be remembered for, but she gets sucked back through. She just falls through the net. I was so like, oh, fuck, when you realize no time has passed. And I just got to shout out the guy, the command center guy. His name's Tucker Smallwood. He's in like he just pops up in like a bunch of stuff. But the guy who's pretty much running the show, he's been in like the X-Files episode, The Home, with all the redneck, like incestuous people like that. He's the sheriff in that episode. I love that guy. He's a great actor. But, basically they're like, hey, nothing happened. She's like, how long was I gone? What day is it? It's like, that's so concerning. You can see all of them are like, okay, like, nah, something's gone wrong here, and basically they say that, 43 separate remote cameras show exactly the same event. How can you explain that? She's like, I can't. Like, I like the fact that she's not, oh yeah, I'll tell you exactly what happened. She's like, I don't fucking know what happened. Like, that's kind of crazy, but I like the fact that it's not just we come back and we, oh, everything's okay. Everyone's going to believe me now. But I got to be honest, if the movie just ended with her kind of like looking up and all that light starts flashing and then it just cuts to black, it'd be like, okay, I'm cool with that. I'd be all right. I don't need like this whole, the president has ordered a special inquiry into the appointment of the committee of Michael Kitts, who has recently resigned as national security advisor. It's like, okay, I don't really need all this. Like, again, we're back to the bureaucratic stuff, just because and don't get me wrong, we've kind of climaxed we're like, but we've got to have this little bit of like fallout of basically Eleanor asking everyone to take her on faith for just the fact that there's no evidence for her story. And you got to believe, like, as a scientist, how hard this is for her to be like, I know this happened, but I have no physical evidence of it. And that's what's also interesting too, that you were bringing up about Haddon with, James Woods basically saying that, he was, making all this up is a really interesting point. It's a weird kind of spin on that.
Yeah, I mean, you might say, well, clearly there's evidence. They got contacted. How is there not evidence, right? Like, you don't even, we have enough evidence. But then if you take the view that it was just a scam, by Haddon,
right.
Well, then there is no evidence, right? Other than, obviously, you get kind of the big moment when her headset had 18 hours of static, right? Like, so
right.
It recorded the time, which is, how did that happen? And it also is it's an agreement with what she says. She was gone 18 hours. So that's like the main evidence that it something happened. And it kind of overshadows the idea that Haddon, put all this on as a scam, as a hoax, just to have like, one last kick before he dies or something.
Right. Well, yeah, and he immediately just starts poking holes, and like, black holes, they're just theoretical, right? And he's like, oh, and also, they sent you home without a shred of proof, and he's immediately punching holes and like, thinking that she has a shared delusion and like all of this shit where it's, basically setting her up to fail, where he's like, what you need is to fake a signal, you'd need a satellite, you'd have to have time and you have to have money so complex. Drawing on so many disciplines, it would just be impossible. But basically trying to say that, that Haddon has faked this thing. And personally, I think that all this legitimately happened, because that would be such a fucking letdown if like, oh no, she's delusional and none of that happened. It's like, right. Oh, well, that's kind of sucks. Right. But the fact that they have 18 hours of static when she only fell through, like, which is interesting too. I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson talk about that, where he was like, technically that's not the way that the time dilation would work in that. Like, and I'm not even going to try and repeat exactly what he said, but he was like, but it would be actually like kind of like the other way around. Like, she would have 18 hours, or 18 hours would have passed, but she just would have been gone and for like a second, like what they kind of mentioned at first, I think is what he was saying, but I am probably wrong. Do not bet on me being right about that.
No, I mean, that would make sense. Like, I think if you left Earth moving, say, faster than the speed of light, or you were just bending space and time to arrive at another location, it would make more sense that we would perceive no time passing. We would perceive like 18 hours passing, where the person traveling, it wouldn't be like that. It would just be like, boom, like instant. But like, right. I'm not like a huge science, I have no knowledge into physics or anything like that. It would just make sense to me, like what you just said.
The only thing I ever got into was like trying like time travel, trying to get something to move at the speed of light. It's like, I remember watching a bunch of videos on it. Like, well, what if you had a train that was going the speed of light constantly? Like, what if you strap rockets to it? It's like, it doesn't matter. It won't speed, anymore. But basically they're saying if you kept that train going though for like 5 years, the people on the train would get off and it'd be 5 years, but everybody else would be way more. I can't remember the exact amount, but I was like, that's like the time relativity. I was like, that's fucking really interesting. And I can't remember exactly what, I mean, again, not a scientist, don't really know exactly what the, specificity of it was, but I was like, that is so fucking interesting, man. But basically we also see that Haddon dies. He dies out in space. He's been the unwitting star, and a final farewell from one S.R. Haddon, a man with the means, the motive, and the opportunity to play you, and indeed the rest of us, in the biggest and most elaborate and the most expensive hoax of all time. Like, damn, I love that dialogue.
James Woods just kills it this whole scene. I mean, he's just drilling her, and he really does a good job at like playing the role. Like the look in his face, just like, man, he's totally on it.
And I love the fact that somebody else chimes in and they're like, over $500 billion was spent. You have no evidence. Dozens of lives were lost. And you accept us. Are you really going to sit there and, tell us that we should all take this on faith? Like, that's an interesting thing, especially for her character, where it's like your whole life has been empirical evidence and doing experiments and finding out the truth and stuff. But I think it's interesting that she even admits it's possible that it didn't happen. She's like, but I know as a scientist, I must concede that. Again, a scientist until the very end, where it's like, even she's kind of shooting herself in the foot. But they admit that there's, no physical evidence and there's no way to back up her story. She's like, but, it happened. She's like, cause I was there, and that's what's kind of interesting about it. It's, I can't disprove it, but you can't disprove it, but you can't prove it either. But it's always been this thing. The burden of proof is on the believer, the burden of proof is on the person making the claim. And that's interesting, is seeing her not as the wielder of that, but as at the mercy of that. is really interesting to see the tables turned on her, at the end. I can't prove it. I can't even explain it, but everything that I know as a human being, everything that I am, tells me that it was real. What a great monologue that she has here of just you can tell how years of all of this is just pouring out of her, where she's like, I have found something that has made me feel less alone in this world, and I know we're not alone, and it makes me tell us how rare and how precious we all are, a vision that tells us that we belong to something that is greater than ourselves, and that that none of us are alone. Like, that is fucking amazing, and you can see this, again, this person, this doctor, this person who wouldn't buy shit without evidence, just selling this story with all of her heart, and just like, I think she can kind of understand now where it's like where people of faith can kind of come from. I think that's kind of interesting that they put her on the other end of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Let me see here real quick. So yeah, we're really just kind of winding down. We're pretty much done. She has this really, really fantastic monologue. They get in the car and drive off. And he's got a great moment too. He's like, we're both in the pursuit of truth. I for one happen to believe her. It's a nice moment, and it's just, we kind of wrap everything up, and then we get this, almost like not a post credit scene, but I would have shit a brick if after the credits, there's this scene and you're like, oh shit. Like, so there actually is something. I think this would honestly work as a great post credit scene, because here's the thing is, she's like, what concerns me is that there were exactly 18 hours of it. And then he kind of looks at her like, I know that already, and I'm trying to downplay that. Like, he has a look that like, don't fucking bring this up, because like, I know, we avoided the fact that nobody brought up that there was 18 hours at the committee hearing. Like, okay, like, that is physical evidence alone right there, the fact that this all actually happened. But is that what you took away from it, that he did have this kind of like, yes, I know that, and no, we're not going to talk about that?
Yeah. And you could also say that like maybe the government would be a good opportunity for them to, it's not real, she was just delusional, but they have the real knowledge. You know what I mean? Like, that would kind of make sense, right? Like, the government knows, but they don't want the majority of people to know something so extraordinary. Right. So like, he's trying to downplay, and there was, like you said, there was no mention of the 18 hours of just like static footage, just proving that there was time passed. None of that was mentioned. And yeah, for sure. I definitely get a sense that he was like trying to downplay that there.
Okay, gotcha. I thought I was crazy, and I was like, is he just saying this like, oh, I didn't know that? Or is he kind of like being more sinister about it? But it makes sense, like you said, hey, we know about it, but that doesn't mean they have to. It's like, as long as we know about it, that's the important thing. It's better if they don't. Like, what does he say in Men in Black? And he's like, people are, scared, stupid. It's like, and basically they freak out.
I think he says a person is smart, but people are dumb, panicky animals, and you know it.
Yeah, that's it. And that's an interesting position to take, especially when it comes to something like this. I think that really speaks volumes in Men in Black and, in this as well. But 18 months later, she's out there with the satellites, I guess giving like tours with, the kids and stuff. Well, if there is nothing out there, it'd be a big, great waste of space. And that's fucking Contact, dude. That's it.
Great film, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We usually cap this off with kind of our final thoughts. I love this movie. It's, there's some things that kind of stick out to me that are kind of goofy, but I think like what you said, a lot of this is kind of like timeless. And the fact that there's like not a shit ton of, CGI, but what they do have looks really good for the most part. And this is a movie that it's rely on a lot of special effects, but also they kind of keep stuff on the back burner, and they make stuff seem, it's not like, for 1997 this could have been a hell of a lot worse. This could have been a real piece of shit. But I also think, again, I think this would have been a really, really good miniseries. But I like every person in this movie. I think is pretty well cast, except for maybe Matthew McConaughey. But that's just my opinion. I think there's I think there were probably some really good choices besides him at this point. It's just I think that not that any really like come to mind, but what's interesting is this movie. Let's see here, it cost $90 million, but it made 171 back, so it's pretty big. But it feels like one of those movies that's gotten lost to the sands of time, and I just like, man, I love this movie. It's free on YouTube right now. I was like, as of this recording, I was like, I really kind of just want to knock out Contact because there's it's a very specific movie. There's not a bunch of movies like this except for like Arrival and The Alike and stuff like that. But what I really like is that it has a very individual kind of taste, and it might be a little slow at some parts, and it might feel a little bureaucratic and stuffy. But at the same time, that's there for a good reason because it builds that kind of world building. So I love this movie. I'm glad we talked about it. I mean, you got any final thoughts?
No, man. I mean, like that's pretty much exactly how I feel. Just it's got such engaging dialogue too that I love science fiction movies and science movies and all that. So yeah, I think this movie is fantastic, and I really enjoyed doing this. Is my first time doing a podcast too, so it was really fun.
Oh, nice. Awesome, dude. Well, yeah, I'm glad you had fun. You're always welcome on. This would be, it's a shame there's not a Contact 2. No, I'm just kidding. That'd be fucking terrible. Jesus
oh, God,
Christ.
I can imagine. Or they remake it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hate if they let like Christopher Nolan do it. Like, okay, cool. Like, I'm down for that. I'm super, but that's basically Interstellar, But guys, we hope you enjoyed this episode. I want to thank Matt for coming on again. You guys are for your continued support as well. Again, you can check us out at patreon.com/midnight double feature. Stop by and rate and review us on iTunes if you haven't yet. It's free. It takes 5 minutes. It really helps out the show, and it really helps set us apart from a lot of those other podcasts. And we hope to see you guys on the next episode. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you later. Bye bye.